What a whining people. Sorry I'm late. All right, sorry, True Black family. 5 minutes in, and we are live on ER. ER? Shut up, you. Right. Okay, here we go. What's up, family? Hey, Patrina. Good to see you. London says doesn't see me. How's that possible? That is impossible. How is that possible? I'm staring at myself right now. Oh, okay. All right, it says never mind. Good. Hello, Marty McFly. What's up, fam? He says. What's up? Right back at you. The Black Sea Produki. What's good, True Burger Burger Gang? What's the Burger Gang? What's that? I like it though, whatever it means. Right, let me just check something out here. Okay, this is gonna be hopefully a fun live. Right. What am I looking for? Okay. There we go. Let me know what that is, Produki. What's the Burger Gang? I want to be in it. I'm guessing I'm in it. Mr. Black Gold says Troublizzy. Rail says hi everyone. Hello, Rail. It's a Bon B food chain franchise. True Burger is a Bon B food chain franchise. Okay. I've never heard of it. You cats in America, you have so many different like food joints and places to just crash out with your calories that we don't have in the UK. We're only just getting Five Guys. Five Guys is only just arriving at Five Guys and what's that? I mean, seeing Popeyes. Popeyes has just made its way down to the UK recently. It's not bad though. It's not bad, but I don't know. For me, nothing beats a good old KFC. You know. Oh, let's not start the chat with that. Let's not start an Afrocentrist podcast / talking about chicken. Let's not do that. They'll have a field day with that. Oh my goodness. Okay, right. It's good to see you in the chat, family. It's good to see. I think right now we've got 18 people. And we've got my guest waiting on standby, waiting to join. And I'm just give me a wave, London, if you're ready to go on. Yep, cool. All right. I'm gonna thank you. Right, I'm gonna add him to the stage as our guest. London is his name. But before I get London talking to us, hi Wildflower. Wildflower says good evening. Produki says he lives in the UK just like me. I've never asked. Well, mate, you're more better traveled than I am. I've never heard of it. Anyway, cool. Right, let me just say a couple of things. I wanted to start this live by just saying, what do I want to say? A massive shout out to our members. And I want to just name them one by one because they are there. I've not done a video in over 2 weeks now, and I normally list the producers, our members in the videos at the end. But I think they deserve a shout out, especially when I've not created mainstay content in the last 2 weeks. But they are amazing just for sticking with the channel and for just giving a little something to the cause. We got Black Rampage 2. Shout out to Black Rampage 2. He's been in this joint for a minute. One of our oldest, I think not one of our oldest, but our oldest member. Shout out to L. Lloyd Stewart. We've got Michael Smith. Shout out to you. Thank you, Michael Smith. Maureen Pemberton. Thank you, Maureen Pemberton. But Patrina Oldfield is a member. And I saw her earlier, so she's in the chat as well. So thank you so much, Patrina. You've been with us for a minute as well. Carol Asperom is one of our newest members. And I say a massive welcome to you. In the name of Jah. Herbert Providence. That's a nice name. Herbert Providence is, I think, our newest member, actually. So thank you. Thank you all for being members. Kayode Adewale, how can I miss him out? Kayode Adewale is a member as well. We got amongst in that mix, the scholars, the sages, and the soldiers. You can take your pick of what you want to do if you do decide to join the True Black membership. You can either be a scholar, you can be a True Black soldier, or you can be a True Black sage, which I think is the highest rank. But there ain't no rank in family, really. So, I just had to grade them like that because YouTube encourages that kind of practice. So anyway, that's what we got. And right, so tonight we have a special guest with us. I'm not going to give you his real name. I don't even think I know his real name. So that's besides the point. But yeah, we got a special guest, and a few months ago now, I put out a call on the channel. Hi, babe. I put out a call on the channel for people who knew a little something about the language of ancient Egypt and how it ties to modern day African languages. And since then, I've managed to get out, I think, about 4 pieces of content on this topic, delving into ancient Egyptian language and the proof of the link of Black Africa. I shouldn't even have to say Black Africa because we know Africa is the home of the blacks. If there's nowhere you can say Africa, Black people belong. If there's somewhere you can say Black people belong, it's Africa. We shouldn't have to say that, but because of the way they've mashed things up and twisted things in and out, we have to say that. But anyway, the link between Black Africa and ancient Egypt is proven yet again by the language, the modern language, the languages of modern day African people. And so we did that, and I put out a call and I said, look guys, whoever knows a little something about this topic, whoever has background in different African traditions, African cultures, hit me up in my DMs on Instagram and we can talk, because I'm preparing something. So I've since done a few content on that topic. But one of the guys maybe the first even to hit me up in my DMs on Instagram was the fellow you're about to listen to tonight. And he's been a massive help in the last few months to some of the content I've been producing. In fact, everyone who has joined that little group, we've become a kind of a mini family. So it's been absolutely amazing. That offer is still open. I kind of have to vet you though. I kind of have to see what you come at me with, because I get a lot of randomers, a lot of random people kind of come in and yo, what's up, bro? Did you know we was the Anunnaki? I ain't tripping, bro. We need to look into this. I'm like, yeah, okay. We'll look into that as well. I'm not really gonna argue with anybody about certain things, but real serious scholars I've added to that group, and we've been having a really good old time, just really, really educating one another, and we've become a little family. We've become a real family. So anyway, that offer is still open because it's gone beyond just talking about the language linked to ancient Egypt right now. It's gone beyond that. One of the things it's gone into is what we're about to talk about tonight. So my guest, London, is I say African American. I don't think he would quibble with that either, but he's certainly a Black American. And one thing the group has kind of inspired him to do more of is to look into his own ancestry. And since he's been doing that, he's come across some of the stuff that he's been digging up about his ancestry and his history. It's blown him away, let alone us in the group, let alone myself. And I was one of these people who at the beginning of this whole thing, I was of the opinion, I was of the mindset that, you know, there's nothing to this idea of there's not much to this idea of Black Americans being Native Americans. You know, I was of the opinion that the Native Americans, as popularly presented to us, is really what we really is really what we see today is what's always been, essentially. Whereas that's not actually true. And one of the things that the brother here has been uncovering is that facts that actually this thing, he used the phrase, and I'm gonna use it tonight, and it's his, so I've properly attributed it, but it's called paper genocide. And one of the things that the Western paradigm has done is written us out of history. But he came up with a very good phrase. London came up with a very good phrase called paper genocide, and that's his phrase, not mine. And now, but I did warn him. I gave him a heads up that I would jack him with that. But yeah, it's they've written a lot of Black achievements and Black presence out, and I'm gonna we together we're gonna demonstrate that tonight. I'm gonna let the brother come in, just quickly introduce himself, and I'm gonna go back into some more introductory stuff, but not really introductory stuff. It's crucial groundwork that we got to lay before we get started tonight. Right, London, I think your mic is good, so yeah, go on.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Trill family, how we doing? Yeah, you laid that out perfectly. You know, our chat started based around Egypt and the language. We all love linguistics in that chat. It was actually someone in the chat that suggested this whole topic to us. And at first, as you know, I was very apprehensive. I pushed back a lot because, you know, here in the South, U.S., you hear that a lot, but not in a good way. You know, you usually hear, you know, you Indian, you have that good hair, you got that, you know, whatever. It's usually almost used as a way to deny your African roots or your Blackness, even. You know, so when I first heard that, I was very skeptical. But if I learned anything just from learning Black history, it's in regards to Egypt, as well as, you know, you don't want to just listen to a narrative. You should look into everything yourself, even if it comes from a source you might not like, or someone you might disagree with, or even someone you don't think is credible. I think everything is worth looking into. So on that journey, I found out it's very interesting the things I found. And I'm glad that I did, because it's helping to kind of put this whole thing together, if that's even possible, because it's so fragmented at this point. It's helped me a lot, and, you know, like you said, it blew my mind. You know, so hopefully during this live we're going to go into some of those things. I think that the audience will like it as well, because it's not just my story. It's pretty much everyone's story here, in the States, in the Caribbean, you know, the islands. Not just me. So hopefully I can demonstrate that to some length today. You know, I tried the best I could to kind of organize things in a chronological way, but, you know, there's so many facts, you know, coming all at me from all angles. We'll try. So we'll see what we can do.
Definitely. You actually
Yeah.
you had a special guest appearance. You did a little what's that word?
Cameo.
Uh what's that?
A cameo.
Yes, that's it. A cameo. Stan Leo's doing
Word
it.
up. Yeah, sorry, I'm a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
cameo.
You had a cameo in the King's monologue. I couldn't watch the whole live, but I did drop in and out of the live that
Yeah, yeah.
week when he did that. But that was the King's monologue did the live recently. I think it's his most recent live. And shout out to that live. If you do have time on
Great.
your hands, it's really worth going and watching. So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen parts of it, but when I actually dropped in, the first instant, I was really, really late that night. And when I dropped in, you were there. You were right there. And I thought, oh, that's London. I was
Yeah.
London. But yeah, I saw you there. And we'd already been working on this this live for a while, kind of playing with the idea. But this is just getting more and more sort of how would I put it, more and more intense for you. this like journey of discovery about into your
Yeah.
ancestry. So yeah, that's another aspect we'll go in tonight, hopefully, about the genetic side, because that's why you popped up in the King's live that week. That live that the King's monologue did was about genetics, and how, you know, how to understand it and how it can help us
Yeah, and
help us
King,
out.
please, and just a shout out to King, please give us a part two if possible, because I have a lot of questions. And then also, I was late as well myself, but also, I don't know if you've seen some of these studies on the Khoi and the San, relating them to saying they're more genetically um, aligned with Eurasians. So I would love to, or, Southern Europeans. I would love to ask her about that, So please give us a part two. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't even understand why we or I ever took these people serious,
Yeah.
because I suppose it's a journey. You have to go through a sort of you have to go through the whole rigmarole of, as you as I liken it to this: like, I can never be accused of not being open-minded, because some of the
Hmm.
stuff I used to believe, I look back
Yeah.
at now and I think, well, do you know what? I was so open-minded, my brain fell out.
Yeah.
That was how open-minded I was. So some of
Yeah.
the stuff that, yeah, these people say, like the Khoisan, how you can look at the Khoisan. That's actually funny you bring up the Khoisan people, because I don't know if anyone knows her, the Venus Hottentot, the you,
Hmm.
you know what I'm
Very
talking
sad
about, don't you?
story. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very sad story. The Southern African woman who was brought in the 18th century to Europe. She was
Right.
exhibited as a negress.
Yeah.
She was Khoisan, but she was exhibited as a negress. So
Hmm.
the reason why they've actually gone, and this is a little bit of because I see some of us argue with these people, and I don't think they're even worth arguing with in the comments anymore. I think we leave the exposing and the shaming of these people to content creators, people with a big mic, like people like the King, and people just, I don't want to say myself, but other people who've been doing the work, and are well established in this work, because you can just you can melt your brain away by just getting in the weeds with these people in the comment section, because what they're doing with the Khoisan thing. My little theory about the Khoisan thing is the Zulu people of Southern Africa are very widespread, but they're the most politically organized. They were the most well organized political bloc of blacks in Southern Africa. So in order to kind of quell or parry their claims to their rights to the land, their indigenous rights, what they did was they transitioned to saying, do you know what, you guys you're not even the original inhabitants. It's a very,
Hmm.
very like sneaky sleight of hand. And in so doing, they said, well, actually, if you want to know who the original inhabitants are, look at these bushmen, as they call them. They're the real. But they did that because, not because they respect the Khoisan, because you read their writings from way back when, and it's very disrespectful the way they describe the Khoisans and
Hmm.
their culture and everything. They describe them in same terms as they describe Black Africans, but they do that because the Khoisan people, they didn't really, they weren't that organized. They weren't an empire. For example, the Zulus actually had an empire. They had a centralized system of governance. So what you're doing is, again, it's a kind of weird, convoluted divide and conquer. Oh, they're the real natives, and just while we're on the topic, they're also not black.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, the narrative comes first and then they work backwards. How can we make our science, quote unquote, fit our narrative? So you got,
Hmm.
Afrikaners and people like Dricus Duplessis and his type going out, saying things on the internet like, well, you guys aren't even, Bantus aren't even native to the region. They arrived at the same time as the Dutch. Even if that were true, that's like that's like me finding myself 200 years ago, or whenever it was, 300 years ago in Iceland, and saying, well, I have more of a claim to it because the Finnish were only just sailing there around the same time. It's like, come on, come on.
Yeah.
If it's like,
Yeah.
and besides, that's not true because well, anyway, that completely different topic. This is how
Well,
you get
no,
lost.
it's not really, because and now they're not even black. The Koi and the Sun, right? Now they're saying there's something else. Um,
Right.
so it's funny because I can see direct parallels between that and the Americas. So it's actually, I think, pretty relevant to what's happening, or maybe what
Brilliant.
happened to us here. Yeah.
Brilliant,
Um,
right. And that's a brilliant segue into this guy on the screen. His name is George Catlin. George Catlin was an adventurer and an artist, and he did lots of paintings and pictures of Native Americans. One of the things he kept noticing and he kept documenting and writing about was the amount of Native Americans. This is in the 19th century now, early 19th century, I believe. And one of the things he kept documenting was how similar in look the native Indians were, a large, sizable proportion of them to Negroes, to black African folk type looking people. And he just couldn't get away with it from it. And this is just his bio. It says George Catlin, 1796, 1872, traveled to the American West 5 times during the 1830s, wrote about and painted portraits that depicted the life of the Plains Indians, blah, blah, blah. Right, cool. That's a little portrait of himself by someone else there. But that at the beginning is his self-portrait by himself. All right, we keep going. I got a quote from his book here on a chief, a second in command in the Americas. And he says, excuse me, where I've highlighted the second paragraph, I've highlighted in purple. For several days, we arrived at this place. There was a huge mass of flesh, Tawakina, the mountain of rocks, who was put forward as head chief of the tribe, and all honors were being paid to him by the regiment of dragoons until the above mentioned chief arrived from the country, where it seems he was leading a war party and had been sent for, no doubt, on the occasion. When he arrived, this huge monster, who is the largest and fattest Indian I ever saw, stepped quite into the background, giving way to this admitted chief, who seemed to have the confidence and respect of the whole tribe. This enormous man, whose flesh would undoubtedly weigh 300 pounds or more, took the most wonderful strides in the exercise of his temporary authority, which in all probability he was lawfully exercising in the absence of his superior as second chief of the tribe. A perfect personation of Jack Falstaff in size and in figure, with an African face and a beard on his chin of 2 or 3 inches in length. I repeat, this Indian, this second in command chief, looked like Jack Falstaff. Jack Falstaff, I think he means John Falstaff. There is a big jolly fellow from Shakespeare. In size, that is, and in figure, but his face was African, and a beard on his chin of about 2 or 3 inches in length. Blah, blah, blah. This is what he looked like. So I don't know if you guys can see what's on the screen here. I have a video coming up about the black presence, the pre-Columbus black presence in the Americas. So again, I came to this thinking this was all rubbish, and I've since been educated. I've been educated by the little group we got going on Instagram. I've been educated by, shout out if you're watching, Brother Craig. He's been educating us a lot on this stuff. But shout out to the debunker. The debunker has done a lot of work on this, and he sent me a lot of information on this that really got me my inquisitive mind going. And one of the things, like, I'm not going to go into detail tonight because I don't want to I don't want to spoil anything, but one of the things that they kept saying, and this is important for what London is going to tell us later tonight, one of the things they kept saying when they turned up in America, Columbus's crew and others, was that there be blacks. Like literally, why are there blacks here? We can see African people. The Indians were telling them they had Estevancio. I don't know if people know who that is. Press 1 in the chat if you know who Estevancio was. He was a Moorish traveler who traveled with Columbus and the early European settlers. And the Indians, when they saw him or any other Negroes in the party of the Europeans, they would say, "Oh, you're one of the tribe downstream from us, aren't you?" They literally wrote this down. Europeans wrote this down. They are this. You would think that this is like, this is stuff that everybody should know. Okay. But nobody knows it. I mean, you would think that we're not like, if somebody wrote, oh, like, oh, I don't even know what analogy to go for, but everybody should know the fact that Columbus's crew wrote about there being Africans on the American mainland when they arrived. African-looking people, not even just African-looking people with normal Indian hair, kinky hair, the whole works. And the Indians spoke about being neighbors with them. There's a whole lot more. Press 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about, the Estevancio. Let me know what you guys think about that. I'm going to move on. This is the face of Tawaquina as drawn by George Catlin. Look at that, brother. Without the hair. Without the hair now. But even if you put the hair, we got people in East Africa. Even if you include the hair, we got people in East Africa that look like this guy. Right. Let's keep going. That's another long quote. I'm not going to go into it. Here's some more of George Catlin's drawings of the native Indians. I mean, I don't really have to zoom in there, I hope, but I think you can see what this guy looks like. It doesn't look too dissimilar. I mean, you're a bit better looking. No, I wouldn't say a bit better looking. I'm hating there, but London's far better looking than this gentleman here. But there's some kind of similarity. There's some kind of similarity. All right, I'll move on. Then we've got this other lady, who was drawn by George Catlin. Again, a very African face. Blah, blah, blah. We have the Negro Law of South Carolina. The Negro Law of South Carolina, what's that, you ask? You need to go and watch my video where I attacked. Okay, no, I shouldn't say attacked. It was all very nice and genteel. I spoke very calmly in that video. It wasn't no attack. It was very respectable. Where I educated the snake across the road there. I don't want to say his name. But where I educated him on the history of the Moors. And I quoted this law, the Negro Law of South Carolina, where it was stated, the term Negro is confined to slave Africans, the ancient Berbers and their descendants. It does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Egyptians, Moors, or the Negro Asiatics, such as the Lascars. That part was there because there was a kind of a deal going on with Morocco at the time, and they wanted to keep Morocco happy and North Africa happy. They didn't want any beef with them. That's another long story. But the germane part of that quote is that in this, it lists the ancient Berbers as a group of people that were brought over to the Americas as slaves. So when people say the Berbers weren't black Africans, they obviously were. The Negro Law of South Carolina documents that. In passing, yes, but it documents that. Okay. Here we have something that was shared with me not long ago. Below you see a Moor. This is from Hotep Villain on TikTok. Shout out to him. I've not really seen his stuff, but it was sent to me by a good friend of Craig. That's one of the brothers I'm talking to you about in our group on Instagram. And he sent me this, and at the top you can see who are those who are Indians, and at the bottom you can see that the fashion, the dress fashion, is very similar to the Moors of the day. Right, keep going. There's some more Moorish pictures, and then we come to our friend London. Right. Is there anything that I should have said there just in the introduction that you want to add?
Well, for one, I think that photo you just showed, that might have been Trap that sent that. I'm not sure. I just want to give the right credit to the right guy.
Okay, which one's that? This one?
Yeah, those. I can't remember for sure, but just in case, I just want to.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
But
sorry about that. Yeah, of course. Shout out to you, Trap. Shout out to you, Trap, if that was you.
Yeah. No, man, you're killing it. Yeah. So this picture here, this is awesome. This is the Nashville sit-ins. So this is actually, that arrow is pointing to my grandmother. So
okay, let me zoom in. So I did an arrow pointing to a lady in this article there, and this lady, London's going to tell us who she is.
Yes, so that's my grandmother. whose name I guess I'll just leave out, right? Even though I'd love to to tell you because she deserves her credit. So that's my Rasta mom, is my Rasta grandma, right? So she's the one that always kind of kept my head to our history. But yeah, so this is back in the day. This is her being right before I think she's being arrested at the Nashville sit-ins, which you guys might have heard about, right? Back in the day, they would deny us service. If sometimes just entry in general. So this is her and I believe a bunch of people from her university that decided to do something about it, right? So they all showed up, but of course they arrested them all. So she has a record. This pretty lady who is a lifelong educator has a criminal record, because of this situation. And you see there here Mark's bomb threat. That's these are the type of things that happen when we when we tried to do something about it. So I think this is just an awesome picture, and just it's taking me back. But yeah, that
What
is my
was
grandmother right there.
right? That's London's grandmother. This at the top left hand corner says March 1960. I want to make a point quickly. Again, I think it doesn't like it doesn't it certainly didn't dawn on me for a while. Whenever we talk about sort of race and race relations and things like that, there's a certain group, a certain section of the population, and I'm not even talking about demarcated by their skin color now. Just a certain sometimes this crosses skin color. There's black folk who get agitated by it, and there's white folk who get agitated by it. But there's a certain cross section of the population that wants to move on, like, oh, come on, that was all in the past. No, this says 1960, guys. This is this is well within, like, to say it's well within living memory is like an understatement. We got people.
Absolutely.
My father, may soul rest in peace, was well past. He was well into his adult years. In 1960, so this isn't something that happened years and years ago. I think people are nervous because of the sins of the fathers, and I think when you're nervous because of the sins of the fathers, what you want to do is, oh, no, well, we've moved on. No, well, actually, back then I was watching some clips a while, like I think they're from the 1970s, and you've just passed a law in America that means that people can vote, like everybody can vote. And even in the 1970s, people were saying things like, well, can't we just move on now? Well, yeah, we can, but like, move on when? Who's like on your timetable? It's like, now we done you dirty, now let's move on. Like, whose timetable are we working on here? I'm,
Exactly.
I'm just
I just got off the phone with her, so this isn't ancient history. I
right.
just
Oh,
talked to her right before I talked to you.
is she still she's still around? She's still with us?
Yeah.
Wow. So there
I
you
know.
go.
So yeah.
Go on. Sorry. Go
No,
on.
yeah, she's still around. So yeah, it's very important that now that I have this, I'm really into this now. I need to talk to her. By the way, guys, if you have these elders in your families, you need to talk to them, and you need to, learn about your history, and get it from someone in your family. I don't think we respect oral family, stories enough. We just go with the narrative, but a lot of the times that oral tradition or those stories go against the narrative. So yeah, and it's actually funny you brought that up about it. People just trying to say it's it was so long ago. I think Louis C.K. the comedian said something like every 10 years or something. People try to say slavery was, they add 100 years to how long ago slavery was. So yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Shameless.
sorry to bring this into it, but we like I'm not even gonna go there. No, it's too early
Fair.
in the night.
Yeah,
Let's not
we'll
go
see.
there.
Maybe we'll swing back around. We'll see how this
Yeah.
goes.
It says at the bottom here, Negro students attempting to end racial segregation in downtown lunchrooms form a corridor to the Iris room at Kane Sloan department store after being refused admittance to the dining area. So they were doing a sit-in. They were kind of occupying here, weren't they?
Yeah, and just a quick segue. I mean, this is just a side note. This popped in my head. There's so many stories. My grandmother, when she was pregnant with, I can't remember, maybe my uncle, her first child, she was in labor, and they denied her entry to the hospital. They had to drive, I think, hour, if not an hour, hours to another hospital. while this lady was, giving birth. So that's in, she's still alive. This isn't a long time ago. So,
Wow.
I don't want to, this isn't a victim thing. This is just, history,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That should be acknowledged.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing if you've been through all that and you survived, and you not just survived, but you've triumphed in it. Like African Americans, Black Americans have done some amazing thing. Like they are I've said this enough times, they are the pillar on which America is built, and that but it's funny, that pillar that pillar is hidden. Like they always hide that pillar,
Mm,
but
mm,
literally without the Black American experience, you wouldn't have America today, but and that leads on into reparations and all that, but that's for another discussion. However, they always try to hide that pillar, and I would it's like trying to tell the story. It's like trying to describe a dog without telling people that about what a barking is, or what how can you describe a dog without barking? How do you tell the American story without telling the Black American story, without telling this nasty part of it? And some people try to like want to not talk about that because, oh well, we don't give you all these good things, so you should be grateful and shut up about it. Well, no, anyway, whatever. Okay, so next picture is, I think this is her.
yeah. Yeah. Um, phenotypically interesting, I will say that, but also beautiful. So yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't be prouder of her.
my brother, I was gonna say that is one stunning woman. I hope that doesn't sound creepy, but that is one
Not at
stunning
all.
woman.
Not at all.
You know,
She's gorgeous. Yeah.
and she, yeah, phenotypically, I was gonna say that's the first thing that struck me. What was the word? Because I asked you to do a little exercise. What word comes to mind when you see this picture?
That I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but just looking at it
Okay,
now,
yeah.
um, I would say, besides beauty, I would say like maybe, yeah, maybe diversity, or something to that effect.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. That's same here. Something along those lines. The word that came to mind was hair.
Mm,
That's not a weave or anything, is it?
no.
That's a real hair.
Yeah, roller. She still does it to this day.
That's a real hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, phenotypically very interesting because, well, we're gonna come to that because you yourself, you're light skinned brother, and but you're not unique in your family. Like your family, like some of the pictures you sent me, a lot of the pictures you sent me were of light skinned black folk, and
yeah,
I want to say. I presumed before when I see things like that, that's because of a white mix in the past, whatever. That could well be true. You could tell us that later on, but I don't know that that's always the case, and that goes back to the whole Indian thing. I
exactly.
say Indian, but Native American thing.
Exactly. And the DNA thing, I've done my DNA with multiple agencies. The same thing when I saw my ethnicity estimate, right? And I saw the European, I was like, oh, that's what it must be. Even though I had all these stories in my family on both sides about, I think like a lot of Black Americans do, about, Indigenous American, ancestors. I kind of just blew that, I was like, whatever, that must be, they must be wrong. And it must be this, Um, so, even with her, even within my family, right? So you look at her, her skin's a little bit lighter. Her three children, my uncle and my aunt, they're like her skin tone, but my mom and me were darker, So it just points to Black genetic diversity as well. You know what I mean? We're not homogenous or monolithic in our appearance at all. So
No,
um,
there are
and that's
Africans.
something to do
There
with
are
time.
Africans. My sister was born. Uh, so there's my last sister was born very very light skinned, and
Mhm.
she maintained that light. I mean, out in Africa, she didn't. She kept it really quite. It was genetic. It was definitely genetic. It wasn't like um it was something that stuck, and she only took color much later in life, but she's naturally very light skinned. In fact, when she came out, like my dad was my dad was eyeing my mom suspiciously. Like, what's there aren't no
Yeah.
there aren't no white expats around here where we live, but so if there
And you
were,
could
I
say
would.
that looking at pictures of my mom compared
Mm,
to her other two siblings. You're like, wait a
yeah,
second, but it would be impossible. But still, you could question it if you didn't, know or respect our diversity, you know?
Exactly. Right, next picture. This is her again, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, she was killing it back in the day, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Was she this looks like she's advertising something.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this in particular. What if it was like I think it might be. Oh, you know what? Actually think this might be from a yearbook. This might be a university yearbook, and she was like maybe named Miss Charm at the school or something like that.
Wow, okay,
Hmm.
okay. Because I was thinking, oh, was she like did she do some modeling
Modeling
as
or
well?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I mean, she might have. I know that
Okay.
there are some advertisements she did, but I don't know if it was like that. That is her aunt.
Right,
Yeah,
okay. Because I was
she
thinking she looks different.
she is a Moore, is like a surname Moore, by the way. Just a nice little side note for
Right.
you. Hmm.
Okay, interesting. So briefly tell us a bit about that. Her surname's Moore, right?
Yeah. So on my maternal side, we married into it. So she's actually a dentist, like my grandmother.
Okay.
But her husband, a black man, was a Moor. On my paternal side, it's on my actual in my lineage, I have Moors on both sides. The surname Moore. She married into it on her side, but on my other side, like I said, it's part of my line.
Mm.
But yeah, I think like I shared with you earlier, and we've all been kind of we're all hip to it now. I think those Moorish crests, that
Yeah,
show
yeah.
black people. So I sent you one as well, but you can go onto the coat of arms database and find, if you look up the Moor surname, you'll see black faces.
Right, we'll get into that in a minute. Right. Right. So here we come to definitely who I think this is your mom, and I think there's someone else now this time.
Yeah, yeah, no. So this is my
So
grandmother again.
your
Yeah,
grandmother,
yeah.
sorry.
And then to the left of her is my grandfather. His surname is also very interesting. I don't know if you want me to get into it now, but um,
Okay, we'll get into it in a second. Just tell us quickly
and
what's
then
his surname.
his surname is Peoples, which
Wow.
translates to descendant of Dub or Dubney. So I think we know the meaning of Dub. It means black. Um, so it also, they say it also means that surname also means disagreeable or ill-tempered. Um, Now, I believe that could very well be a surname given to them because of their disposition, but I often find that associated with black are those terms a lot, ill-tempered,
Hmm.
disagreeable, something
Hmm.
a negative connotation. But yeah, that
Yeah.
literally translates to the descendants of Dubney or
Hmm.
Duibney.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is them at their wedding still, and they're cutting the cake there.
Hmm.
Um, I always wonder what these pictures look like in color because people colorize some of these now, and
I did
it makes
colorize
you.
a lot of them, but I
Oh,
didn't
did
send you
you?
those. Yeah, I didn't send you those because I think it just for this, black and white sometimes it kind of shows its antiquity and
Yeah, yeah. I prefer it black and white. I'm just saying that when you colorize something, what it does is it makes you see them like in a completely. It takes away the antiquity, and you kind of think, well, these
yes,
people are just normal folk.
yeah, it's a lot more revealing when you colorize. Trust me, if if we do a part two or something, I'll share my screen, my ancestry. I've colorized all these photos. So
Wow,
mhm.
wow. Okay, so again, here they are. Can you tell us who these people are? Because we might run into them again. So on the far left, who's that?
So I wish I knew who that gentleman was, but I believe it's
Okay,
somebody on my grandmother's side.
right, right.
But I'll ask her about that. And like I said, if we ever do another one, I'll be able to tell you.
Yeah.
The lady next to him, I don't know either. But then
Mm-hmm.
obviously, then it's my grandmother, my grandfather, and the lady to the right. I believe that is one of my grandfather's sisters or aunts, and the lady to the far right is one of my grandmother's sisters. I believe. I believe that might be her. I think her name was Velma or something, but that's one of her sisters.
That's a uniform he's gotten, right?
Yes,
Mm.
that I'm
What?
assuming that's military. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
So he's obviously in the military or he's in the forces, one way or the other.
Big time.
Let's
Yeah.
find out especially specifically where. So this is grandpop still,
Mhm.
on your maternal side, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Right. On your maternal side. And yeah, he's much younger. I can definitely see the resemblance. Another good looking bro, you locked out with the jeans, man. You really locked out with the jeans.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
look at this guy, man. I think he looked out the jeans. I
Yeah.
have a hat and some facial hair to cover it up. This guy's clean shaven, looks amazing.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But
So
no, go ahead.
what uniform is that then? Is that the US
Air
Army,
Air Force.
Navy, Air
Air
Force,
Force. He
right?
was a pilot. Pilot in Vietnam.
Wow, he was
So
in Vietnam.
yeah, he was a colonel. So he was big time. You know, this is obviously in the beginning. I'm looking at his badges there, or whatever. This is early on. Yeah, there you go.
That's him there. Getting,
That's him a little
he's
later.
getting,
It looks. Hmm.
yeah, he's getting that medal, isn't he?
Hmm. Yes.
And this is him later on.
Yeah, I think maybe 50s there, late 50s, something like that.
Okay, so
40s.
tell us more about him. He seems he seems a bit why as he's gotten older, he seems more mixed,
Mm,
which is strange. But he looks really high ranking here. I've got
yeah.
that like in the title there, high rank. I mean, this
Hmm.
is a guy who really went up the climbed the ladder.
Yeah, and you were talking about um, the amazing things that we've done here. With no springboard really to help
Mm.
us. He is a prime example of that. He actually got married to my grandmother in a chicken coop. Yeah. So, and look at him here, right? So, yeah, he was like I said, he was a colonel in the Air Force. I think you might get to it later, but you'll see some of the people that he met. Some pretty big, important people. He was, I think, commander of his own like wing, and yeah, he was a big deal. You know, yeah.
This guy was not just a big deal, but brother is that's a Mason handshake.
Hmm.
That looks
Yeah,
like a Mason handshake.
I was actually gonna send you. So I'll just put it this way. My mom used to tell me, yeah, she used to tell me that he used to have like a red phone. You know what I mean? Like a phone that no one answers, kind of thing.
No.
Yeah. And I was actually gonna send you some pictures of some groups he was affiliated with that are interesting, but I didn't. I don't. But that's not really important. But I was put it that way. But it's interesting. Yeah. So he was big
Wow.
time. Yeah.
See,
I wish I could have asked him more questions, but he didn't
I
talk
was
about
just
any of it.
I was just messing around, but I when I saw that handshake, I thought, I've heard about
Well,
that before. The way that clinch, and
yeah.
that's
So I never even looked at it like that, right? But that's why I'm agreeing with you, though. It possibly could be, just given the things I
wow.
was told. Yeah.
Okay. Um. All right. Let me go. Let me keep going. And there's some more. I titled that more Mason shenanigans because I don't know what this guy is meant to be. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Right.
It's like little town crier body or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right. I don't know either. It's bizarre.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got him. Well, he's ringing the bell there. Right. This one reminds me. I don't know what word you wrote down for this, but chat. I don't know what you think of when you see this. Try not to look at my titles at the top. So let me know in the chat what word comes to mind when you see this. I'll give it 10 seconds. What about you, London?
Mine was a little bit. I kind of thought of like not black sheep, but almost like he kind of looks like he is, yeah, kind of looks like the black sheep there. But I
Mm,
didn't really um yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Hmm.
I had
Or one amongst many.
Yeah, that's the thing though. He would have had to be. He would have had to. This is someone who's made it to the very top, and they're doing
Hmm.
it no doubt against the grain. Like he must have been very exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, especially at that time. I did hear stories from my grandmother about arsism and all those kinds of things he faced. We're on YouTube. I don't know if
Mm,
you can say those words, but yeah. In fact, give me a second. I'm gonna grab a book that I found when I was at her house.
cool.
It's right
Guys,
here.
I had Black Ops. Black Ops came to mind. I don't know if you guys ever played Black Ops on Call of Duty, but this reminds me of them going like into some back room where they like some war room where they war game like tactics and stuff. I've got Doctor
Yeah,
Strangelove comes to mind there as well.
I could see that as well. Yeah. But I found this book in his library, and
Right, let's see.
inside of it there was a note, I think from one of his colleagues, right? And to me, it just kind of showed me the conflict he must have faced, fighting for a nation, for one that didn't really recognize or respect him the way they should have. But it just says
Mm.
Captain Peoples. I took the liberty of ordering the enclosed book for you. The Negro press has virtually ignored it, but I thought you and some others might be interested. Let us hear from you sometimes. So this book is basically about the inner conflict the Negro soldier faced, right? That and then this one as well. So I thought it was interesting because that's
Did he
something
write that?
no, I think so. I think one of them a colleague of his wrote, and the other one I think is just like a some random guy. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Especially when you get up to this level, right? There are probably compromises you have to make. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can only
Were you
imagine the
close?
things.
Were you close with him?
Yeah. So my maternal side is I have a very small immediate family. I pretty much only grew up with my mom, her two siblings, which are my uncle and aunt, and their parents, my grandfather and granddad on that side. So him and then the lady you saw before, that was my family basically. So yeah, I grew up. I would go every summer and go stay at his place. Yeah, so
Wow.
huge influence on me. He's like the patriarch of our family, or was.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is them. I put en route to Black Ops is what I named this one. En route to Black Ops.
Yeah.
I kind of get the Black Sheep vibe again here. He's out on the far left of all of them, just kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
This looks like this. I don't know what's going on in this picture. Do you know what he's winning there?
I don't know what he's winning, but your caption, I believe, is correct. I think that might be his frat. I think he was like Alpha Kappa. I don't know. He is definitely in one of those frats, though.
Right.
So I think you have that right. I think you're correct on that one.
Okay, Wingstaff 1985. This says. So is he? Would you say? So he's got the desk there. Is this the people under his command?
That's a good question. I could be, because I know he did. He was in that position, but I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I grabbed all of these off my grandmother's computer. Right, but I just went to go visit her recently, so I haven't had a chance to go through all of them. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, right? I think the only gentleman that looks comparable to him in rank is the gentleman standing to his right.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that. Also, I was gonna say somebody said this, and that's thank you, Nerd Large. Nerd Large says Colin Powell vibes, and I agree with that.
That's funny that he mentions that because not only does he kind of look like him, they used to golf together.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking to the Illuminati here.
Yeah, this is actually all a psyop. I'm here to confuse all of you. I'm here to lead you all astray.
What have I got myself into? I'm talking to the boule.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so they used to go with Colin Powell, and also Nerd Lord says Colin Powell vibes. I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I'm thinking more McNamara. Now I know for a fact, I've not confirmed it, but I don't know if you know who McNamara is, but McNamara definitely has some black genes in him. Does he ring a bell? Do you know who McNamara was?
No, but
he was. I think he was the chief of staff for some military dude during the Vietnam War. But he's. I mean, he would be classed as white, but he definitely got like maybe he's an eighth or something. Okay. I think he was Colin McNamara as well. But yeah, he was a big wig in the whole Vietnam era. But that's who your granddad reminds me of a little bit. Okay, there's some more pictures. Okay, so now we're in, I think the car there, I don't know, we're looking like 1970s. John McNamara, thank you. John McNamara, and it says Nerd Large, thank you. That's who he kind of reminds me of.
Okay. I'm looking at Robert.
Are you looking at him right now?
I'm looking at a Robert McNamara.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Robert McNamara. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, definite Robert McNamara. That's the one. That's
I can see that. I can see that by his features. That could be possible.
Okay, so this right here, is him meeting George Bush Sr. And there's your grandmother there as well.
Yeah.
This is Go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I don't know if there's much to even say about it, huh? It's a picture that speaks 1,000 words. I lived through his son's hilarious presidency, so so
Right. Yeah.
um
Of course.
you
Of course.
but yeah, this is um for one, from a chicken coop to here is a big jump, a big leap.
Yeah, man. That's it's
um
just incredible. I almost skipped past it. Like when you sent me the images, I was just going through it, and at the point where I got to this, I had to go back like, whoa, that was George Bush Senior. That's amazing.
mhm. And I do have to say, from my especially my grandmother to throughout all of this maintain, they were very proud of their blackness, and they never shied
Mm.
away from it, even in this professional setting. I think she told me a story actually about they were at a military dinner or something. Something happened. Somebody basically called him or her out of their name, right? And he corrected it right then and there, which is something that you didn't really do back in the day, right? For fear of
Say that
some kind
again.
of retaliation. He somebody said something about something negative or something derogatory, and he actually right then and there called it out, which is rare, especially in his position. So for them to maintain that black pride, I guess for lack of a better term, throughout all this is very impressive to me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's more. But we're back to family now.
And we're
We've
back to
got
hair now.
yeah, we're back. So this is still your granddad, your grandmother, and I'm guessing that's your dad or mom somewhere. Sorry, your
No,
mom.
yeah, my mom. Yeah, so she's the one in the back with the she's the girl in the back. My mama.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Yeah, and then her
Good.
little sister is in front of her, and then the oldest, my uncle, is to the right there. Yeah.
He's the guy putting the thumbnail, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Great
Yeah,
smile.
yeah.
By the way, I can't wait to show that to my grandmother because uh, he passed, and I think she's
Oh,
gonna love that. So, but yeah, yeah, that's
okay.
the
So
fam. Yeah.
I'm,
Oh
I'm
wait.
skipping. I'm skipping
Yes.
ahead too fast there. Sorry. Okay, so we've got more family. So everyone's a bit more grown now,
Yeah.
and
So same
okay.
thing. Left to right is my aunt, or at least the siblings in the back. It's my aunt, then my uncle, and then my mom on the right there.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I can definitely see the resemblance. And
Mhm.
again, it's your uncle, your aunt, and your mom.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I can see you look a lot like your uncle.
Hmm.
Definitely see the resemblance of your uncle there. And
Yeah.
right. We come to this gentleman. What's going on there? Who is this individual?
So that gentleman is, if ancestry is to be believed, which I'm still looking into, it's supposed to be like one of I believe, my great 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 uncle. So let me just do it in my head real quick. On my paternal side, it would be my grandfather Lark, great grandfather Walker, great 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 great. It would be it would be the brother of my great 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 grandfather. So with ancestry, when you get to this time, they just assume that the slave owner was the father. So
Mm,
his brother Archibald is the one that comes up, which could be true. Um, for one, I will say I don't know for sure if that's an accurate picture of that gentleman, and I also don't know if I'm actually related to him, but that's who
right.
they suggest to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
line,
yeah.
by the way, this line goes back to the Stuart Kings of Scotland and to the Malcolms as well of Scotland, which is interesting. If you know anything about the Stuarts, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm. So I'm still looking into that. We'll see. I think he also did translated the Bible. He translated the Bible into like Gaelic or something. I don't know if that was no, not him, but he did. He was some kind of important preacher or something like that.
He looks like a preacher. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
He looks like a
who had
he looks
slaves,
like
you
a
know.
preacher.
Yeah.
Right, let me go to the next picture. Right. So I've got here. Now we're getting into some juicy tidbits. So you sent me this, and you've been talking about this in the group. We've been talking about this in the group a lot. Who are these three men? And like obviously it's got something to do with something Moorish. But can you tell us what's the story? What's going on there with these three black heads that we can see on the screen?
Absolutely. So I grabbed this from the coat of arms database. Um, so my grandmother's one of her surnames is her paternal surname is Dennis. So this is just one of the crests I found with the head of three Moors, and I'm actually pulling up the official blazon now so I can read it to you. So excuse my French because I don't French, but it says de gueules et a toi tetes de more tortillas dior, whatever. I butchered that, right? But um, translated, that essentially is, it says it's like the head of three Moors with a gold band, right? So I just think it's funny because, you know, people will tell you that the Moors weren't black, but here you have an old school crest and it's describing the heads on there as the heads of Moors. So I
And
think that's
you said earlier on in this chat, you said that you've traced your ancestry. So you're I think somewhere in your line you've got a Dennis. Your surname might, I think, is even Dennis. Sorry to I don't know if
no, it's cool.
I
It's
was
not, so it's okay.
there, but I think so in your line somewhere is Dennis and
Yeah,
dog.
my grand.
Okay, and you've looked into the etymology of these names. Can you remind us again about this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that Dennis one there. And let me just pull up some stuff here as
If you want to
well.
share the screen, let me know. I'll let you do that.
Okay. Well, what I can tell you just off the top of my head is that name for one. So it comes. There are a few things, a few sources, right? It was born by various Christian saints, including Saint Denis. Um, it's supposed to be from the French Denis, and the French Denis is supposed to be from the Latin Dionysus. So this Denis surname is supposed to actually is supposed to be able to be traced back to the cult of Dionysus. And I don't know if any of you guys in this chat know, but there are people suspect that Dionysus was essentially Osiris. Um, so not only am I finding black faces on the crest, but I'm finding possible black etymology in the name as well, or black, a source of. There's a lot of blackness, I'm seeing a lot of. There's a lot of coincidences that I'm putting together. I'll put it that way. This is also traced back to like the Huguenots and the Edict of Nantes as well. It also means descendant of Dongus, which means brown choice in Irish. So there are a lot of correlations between this and blackness or brownness in Africa and Moors.
You mentioned something earlier. You said about Dionysus. Now, this would explain why, if you went back into, if you really dig, okay, and I mean dig, and this again, when you find something, don't know if I've said this already, but I'm saying it now. When you have to look for something really hard before you find it, you know that's the truth. You know the truth lies in there. Because I have found that there are busts of Dionysius that can only be described when you look at them as a black man.
Yep, agreed.
It can
Totally
only be
agreed.
described as a black man.
Yeah,
And
and I think they try to
I
pass
was
it off. They try to
sorry,
pass
say
it
that
off.
again.
They try to pass it off as they have a term for it. As it's like black something art. They try to say it was like a stylistic choice, but even the hair doesn't really reflect it only being a stylistic choice. Um,
Precisely.
and just real quick as
Precisely.
well, and also before you continue, below Dennis it says Brab period. That's Brabant, which is like near modern day Belgium. Um, so that's also, well, it could also be France as well because I think at that time France had some kind of territory, Brabant. But that's also just showing you, where places that the Moors went. Anyway, sorry, continue.
No. This is your show, brother. I just want to so just um just to go back to the Dionysus thing.
Hmm.
If I find it, I find I don't wanna mess the stream up because I'd have to stop sharing what's on the screen and it's just long. But I found these images and they look authentic, and I tell you why I say they look authentic. You have statues that are put in European museums today, and they look burnished. They look like they were made yesterday, and I mean yesterday, to
Hmm.
the point where there is actually a bust of Hermes, and Hermes, a lot of the early representations of Hermes are Negroid. They're just of black people. Now, someone listening to this might think, why should what? So what are you trying to say? We was Greeks as well now, kind of. And I'll say this, and the reason I say kind of is because including me, people have downplayed the extent to which Africa influenced the world, or blacks influenced the world. Um,
Hmm.
and one of the ways they influenced the world was through religion. One of the ways was through Egypt and Ethiopia. And people really don't like you talking about this. But the more and more I look into it, the Greek civilization was literally a copy and paste of Egypt and Ethiopia. Almost their whole religion was a copy and paste of Egypt and the Ethiopians. One of their main gods was Dionysus. The earliest representation of Dionysus showed a black man, a curly, very kinky beard and hair, thick lips, broad nose. Unless you're drinking something or smoking something, you would be pushed to deny that what you're looking at is a black man. I didn't have it ready for the live tonight because it's not the main deal. Dionysus, somebody Nerd Large is also saying now. Thank you, Nerd Large. I put that up on the screen. Dionysus was said to have been raised in Ethiopia. Yes, somewhere in the mystic mountains in mystical mountains in Ethiopia. In fact, he was said to be raised, I believe, by Hermes in there, but also a son of his, or maybe his father, a guy called Silenus. Nobody credible denies that he was a black god or black facing god. He must have been inspired by the pygmy god of Egypt, Bes, because they look the same. The pygmy god of Egypt is almost, if you go and look up Bes and you keep looking, you'll see the authentic representations of this can only be a black sort of a pygmy god, right? And he's Silenus is based on him. So when you say Dennis is linked to the cult of Dionysus and whatnot, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Perfect sense. And maybe people then have the surname Dennis are linked somehow to like a black fruits.
Yeah. And there were supposedly, this is all theoretical, three black migrations into the Americas, and a lot of people suspect that there were like kind of secret societies. One of them being the cult of Dionysus, in which these black people would basically pay to come to take this trip, right? But I don't know if you saw what I put on screen here, but this is a depiction of Dionysus here. And when they try to tell you it was stylistic, well, then why are the people next to him not black as well? You see? Uh, so,
So that's Dionysus who's receiving something.
some kind of sacrifice, yeah. Which would kind of go, which is in line with his cult of Dionysus, the whole thing they would do, right? Phallic procession, sacrifices, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yes, yes,
hmm
yes, 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 yes. Okay, massive digression there, but
yeah,
it's very important. We go on. So you've got that name in your background there, Dennis. Okay, we will go on to the next image. We have again, I think the same sort of thing, a modernized version of this crest, Dennis. Um,
yeah.
this doesn't look to me like it's got anything to do with Moors who have been killed in battle or anything like that. This looks regal. So
Yeah, they have gold coronets, so I highly doubt. after they decapitated them, they decided to put a nice little
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
exactly,
anything of worth on their heads. Yeah.
exactly. Okay, we
Hmm.
keep going. So, um, uh, let me just do you want to talk about this gentleman?
We can, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so
So
he's a
this,
dentist.
yeah,
Go on,
yeah.
sorry.
So no, yeah, this is Benjamin Franklin Dennis. Unfortunate name, given what we know about Ben Frank now.
Yeah, yeah.
But not an unfortunate man. This man, this is an article about him. I think this is him pictured after. This is him, a younger picture of him, but this was done, I think, when he was older, still alive. I think he was like 92 at the time they interviewed him for this. But that he's pictured there after I think his first paycheck he received from his job. He bought a restaurant, a grocery store, and that outfit, that coat. Um, but he, you know, a lot of people, and I've heard black people say before, or I've heard black people say, we built a lot of this country. But I have this is concrete proof here actually, because in this article, it basically goes on to tell how he built most of the roads and a lot of structures in Nashville, Tennessee. There are roads named after him. Not just him and my family, but also I believe his nephew, which is one of my like my great grandfather on that side. Yeah, a lot of roads, juvenile building. I think like the juvenile center there he built. Um, he built a lot of like roadways and everything for like all these upscale homes as well. Um, this man built a lot of that city, especially downtown Nashville. Um, he was the man. So
So
yeah.
this is an article in a local paper about it then.
Hmm. Yeah, there you go. Benjamin Franklin Dennis in 1928 pose sports the overcoat he purchased with a portion of the first paycheck he received uh, from the railroad, $752. He also purchased a grocery store with the remainder. I think he used the remainder, and then he had some money saved up to purchase that grocery store. But
Wow.
yeah, he was working on the railroad, and this article goes on to basically say that as he was doing that, he was watching the masons and all these people like laying, building these roads and everything. And he was just like watching, kind of learning by watching. And then one day, I guess he decided to go over there and learn the trade. And then he started his own business doing it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
I mean, look at the
And
man
this
was
is
sharp, huh?
this is what I'm saying. Now there are folk who um like to diminish a lot of this. This is what I've been saying for a while now. Like we need more like stories about this side of the black experience in America, because I think people are tired of what Hollywood does. Is they deal in trauma
The
and
slave
kind of that,
narrative. Yeah.
yeah, that slave narrative. I
Yeah.
mean, they certainly aren't the ones to trust with like the Moorish presence in America. Definitely, they wouldn't look into that. But
Mhm.
I mean, even that just aside, just there's a whole host of black American history, black American like just stories that they pretend not to know about, and I can only say it's pretend because with billions of dollars of budgets in their budgets, they can't not know about these stories. They can't not know about like just people like this, Benjamin Franklin Dennis, and like this is worth a movie. This is
Yeah.
worth a movie. Just this story in itself.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna go on. This is him again. I'm guessing
Mhm.
at the bottom,
Yeah.
and is this him again?
No, no, that's actually, I believe, what would that be to him? Possibly a brother or brother-in-law. So that is one of my grandfathers there. That would be my maternal. So my grandmother you just saw in those earlier pictures, that's her grandfather.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah. Um, but
Okay.
I just want you to look at his face. By the way, he was actually a much happier man than this picture would
Yeah. No,
illustrate. Because I heard that the first thing I said was like, "You look mean," and they're like, "No, he was actually the sweetest guy ever." So this must have been just on a bad day or a bad angle. But phenotypically, I think it's pretty interesting when you look at his features. Like they say, any type of light skin or whatever, they always just portray, always say it's European, right? But to me, that doesn't look like, I know a lot of people that are half white, half black, or, a quarter white, three quarters white, whatever. And that's not typically what they look like, you know? I think I'd like to think I'm pretty good with phenotypes. Um, that's something a little bit different. That's, to me, that looks like possibly someone who is at least mixed with Indigenous American. And
Yeah, I was
like I
gonna
said, I
say,
just
is this the side of your family that's Indigenous American, Native American?
so both sides are, which is
Right.
interesting. So, but this will be my maternal side. So with them, it's more of the oral history of it. I have more documents on my paternal side, but I think with my maternal side, you can see it more in the pictures. And like I said, I actually just got off the phone with my grandmother, and she was actually just telling me how his son was telling her father was telling her that we had on that side Indian on both sides, which is something she was because I just called her right before this to ask her a couple questions. She ended up calling some family members and finding out all this stuff about like Apache, Cherokee, Choctaw being on both sides and all this kind of stuff. So like that is just oral history though. So I haven't been able to confirm or deny it yet. It's also
Mm,
information that's new to me. But instead of just ignoring it like I might have done 6 months ago or something, it's worth looking into, right?
definitely. I
Especially,
would have said he looks Native American as well.
yeah,
Okay, and then we've got, is this him again,
another
younger?
Dennis. No, that's I think that might be like a brother or a nephew or something like that. But that's another Dennis as well.
Right. Okay, we keep going.
So that's his son. The picture 2 pictures ago.
Right.
That's my great grandfather. Yeah, so that's the great great, and that's the great grandfather. His name is
Right.
Chippy Dennis, and he
Right.
also, along with Benjamin Franklin, helped build a lot of those roads and all that kind of stuff in Nashville. Um, but he was the one that was telling my grandmother about Apache and Cherokee being on both sides, or possibly whatever. The thing is, a lot of that stuff. Uh, those people mixed around, and only certain tribes are recognized. So we'll just leave it at Indian ancestry or indigenous ancestry.
He
Uh,
definitely. RJ McKenzie says he looks native. He definitely. That comes to mind straight away.
yeah, and if he's not only he was, and also when I talked to her, she was mentioning how when they were in Germany, like deployed in Germany, my grandmother, they actually asked her if they had native ancestry, if they could prove it, because then the children, my mom and her siblings, would be able to go to school for free in Germany. So it wasn't just us saying it; it was other people asking it. So yeah,
Okay. Um, I had to put this up there because
which is
your
cool.
family is like a Hall of Fame. So you got a baseball um sort of superstar in there as well.
Yeah, yeah, and he must have been cool because when I mentioned him to my grandmother, she just like lit up. She's like, Uncle Wesley. So he must have been cool. I think maybe he was closer to her age. He was like a later child, so maybe that's why. Like an uncle brother kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this man played in the Negro leagues, and he was like a career player. He had a long career. Look at that there, 13 years, bunch of different teams. Um, Taller than me, but he played my position, so that's pretty cool.
This is
But yeah,
this is amazing, bro, because like this is 1942 it says there. And
mhm.
again, 1942. This is like in the grand scheme of human history, this is like yesterday.
Yeah,
And you still yesterday you had a Negro League.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
is I think it's more like amazing to me because the black experience here is on this side of the Atlantic. We've still got we still had our like and also coming from West Africa, we've got our own history, our dealings with um racism and race relations and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
but it's not as like it's
The
not
the
as
racism the racism isn't as documented.
Oh
It's
my goodness, it's
yeah,
not as in your face. It was
yeah,
nowhere near as in your face as in
yeah.
America. And it's just amazing to me that ironically that country, your country, is supposed to be this beacon of like today anyways, this it's always been this beacon of freedom or whatever, but it's like literally like you it was yesterday when it was like say we had Negro leagues and fountains where it's just amazing, absolutely incredible to me, man.
Yeah, me too.
Wow. and
Yeah,
and and to talk about any of this now, it's like, oh, you're like, it's I think a lot of these,
reverse.
yeah, why are you talking about it so much again? It's like this was yesterday.
I can't talk about my grandmother. You know, you guys talk
Yeah.
about World War II like every other
Well,
day. You know.
exactly. That's what I was gonna go into. I don't want to upset the algorithm, but you know,
Yeah.
them people's we are every year there's a video
Hmm.
um about
Commemorating those
something,
things.
yeah,
And
commemorating something that happened between 1939 and 1945
and not
again
to
and again.
and not to
Go on.
upset the algorithm, but I had a family member fight in every one of the, at least one fight in every single significant American war. So it's my story as well, World War II, and you know, so
Right,
I have no
right.
problem going back to that. So you know, you should have a
I,
problem
I
going back to this.
I don't even mind. I don't even mind. Tell your stories.
Mhm.
You know, tell your stories however much you want to tell them. I don't have to go and see them every year or every month, but tell your story. But whenever we want to talk about this stuff, it's like, oh, can we just get over it? And let's talk.
Oh, man.
Let's talk
Yeah.
just for briefly about reparations. Now, I've got a very, very strange, what I think will be a strange view on reparations right now, and a lot of people might not like me for it, but I think it's a distraction. Personally, I think they're never going to give that. If they wanted to, there's
Mm.
a way that they could have done that would have been far better and more efficient, rather than just doling out money anyway. But I think that's a whole different topic. They're not going to do it. They're using it, they're propping it up in the background as a distraction. They're never going to do that. However, I think, isn't it funny that like folk get called out for like talking about reparations like nowadays, when literally the biggest the biggest, like, you have a group of people, again, I'm not going to name them, who you literally, to placate them, to say sorry for what you done to them, okay, you gave them a whole country.
Hmm.
You kicked out a booth of people, and you're still doing it today. You kicked them out, you gave them a whole country, and we can't talk about do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can't talk about reparations when they gave them to slave owners as well. You know, um,
It's
the
just incredible.
gaslighting is supreme. Yeah.
It's incredible to me. It's incredible to me.
I agree with you though.
Anyway,
I don't think they'll ever give them. I don't think it's quantifiable either. I think if they, even if they did, it wouldn't be.
no.
We don't know our history well enough to know what we deserve. I'll put it that way, as a whole. So yeah.
Right, precisely. Okay, right. Let's okay, this is about, okay,
Some
right,
people.
Dob. I want to talk about the name Dob. You've got the name Dob in your family as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was, I think here I was highlighting it because peoples, it means descendant of dub, right? So this is just to clarify what the meaning of dub for people that might not know, or for people that want to disagree. You know, I'm using Wikipedia here, and you know, I don't like Wikipedia. I like to call it something else. So
Mm-hmm.
usually, if Wikipedia is saying it, and it goes against the narrative, it means there's too much evidence to deny it. But yeah, dub very clearly here means black. So I think that's interesting. And then you also see Mac Malcolm, right? Mac meaning son. Malcolm is actually, my paternal surname is McCullum, which dates back to McCallum, which dates back to Malcolm, and O'Challam, O'Challium, Mal, a bunch of different things. So there are multiple. I have so many names in here, and then also Din. I forgot to mention that earlier. We had a whole conversation about this. It's Din itself means black in multiple languages as well. We actually discovered in our chat that in what was it, Vietnamese, yeah, in Vietnamese, Din means black as well. And I only know that because of my the job I used to work, it was a racial slur. They call you Miden.
Wow.
So me, there's a two meanings, but it usually means like savage or moi means like savage, barbarian, and den means black. Now, if you were to type that into Google, it wouldn't tell you black. It would tell you the N word. So it was a slur, right? So I thought that was crazy when we found that out. But yeah, den in multiple languages means black. You see here it's describing Den the Vehement. I think this was like, was it a Kapruki or a Grassy? I think it was a Kapruki video where he went over this. So I thought
And
it was funny.
shout out to
Yeah,
Kapruki. That's an amazing video. Carry on, brother.
yeah. So, but here you see multiple. I see. So I see. We also know Duff as well. It means black, dusky. So you see multiple blacks here, right? I can almost read read it that as black, black, black. But what I see is, I have Malcolm in my family. I have Den in my family. Um, so to me, it's just, they're like I said, and then Dub as well, and on the people's side. So there are just a lot of interesting coincidences here. I think when you have enough circumstantial evidence, and shout out to Craig for I was talking to him earlier, you can actually, you can form a case, right? So I'm not
Let's
telling
talk
anyone
about.
these are facts. I'm
Let's
saying we
talk
should look
about.
into it. Yeah.
Let's talk about this Dob. Let me just read. Let me read what it says, just in case people, for whatever reason, can't look at the screens right now.
Mm.
Dob Mac Mao column, is the medieval Gaelic form, whatever. The modern form Dov or Dob has the sense of dark or black, it says on this Wikipedia entry. And you've highlighted, especially in reference to hair color. Now, you've highlighted that because that's a straight up lie. Sometimes this article, and we'll say why that's a straight up lie now. This article carries on, this Wikipedia article carries on. Sometimes anglicized as Duff McMalcolm, this form was used in older histories, but is not commonly used today, called Den, the vehement Duan al Barnak or something, and the Black. A direct translation of his name to modern English is Black Malcolmson. He was king of Alba. He was son of Malcolm I and succeeded to the throne when Indolf was killed in 962. Now, what a lot of people don't know is actually there is a lot to suggest that there was black presence. There was a heavy black presence on the English Isles
Mhm.
a long time ago. Now, you're never going to hear about this in polite circles, in established sort of establishment circles, but there is strong evidence. You look up a fellow, shout again to Kapruki, who's done a lot of work on. He's done some few videos where he cites what's the name, MacRitchie.
Mhm.
MacRitchie's work from the 19th century, in which this is an English Scotsman now, a British man of the Scottish variation. He writes and he traces the heritage of the Scottish people and the Irish peoples, and he finds that he can't get away from it. The conclusion being that there must have been a somewhat sizable black presence on the English Isles, the British Isles, a very long time ago. We're talking Dark Ages, pre-Dark Ages, like Roman era, late Roman era. Okay, and one of the things they say is that this name Dob, which they were going around calling a lot of people in Scotland, one of the things they say is that this was in reference to hair color. Now you have this reconstruction of King Dob of Scotland, literally King Black, the Black King of Scotland, if you translate it. And what London has done is he's drawn an arrow to the reconstruction of this King Dob, and he's drawn an arrow to his hair, and his hair is like brown ginger kind of color. This is not a black-haired man, and let's, like, if you're gonna make up this narrative that this was in reference to hair,
At least get
first
the
of
hair right.
all, it doesn't even have this reconstruction of this King Dob of Scotland, doesn't even have black hair.
Mhm.
Secondly, why would you go around calling people black because
By
they
their
have
hair.
black hair by their hair? Like, that must be every other person.
Yeah.
Like that
Everyone's
must be every other
90% of the world is the black.
you know what I mean? Like, oh
What?
yeah, oh they're my. It's just stupid. It's just
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Malcolm McRitchie, I think it was.
Hmm.
So, like,
Yeah.
he concludes that there was this, and he goes through the records as well. He goes through the records and he talks about. He says himself, these people were black. There are certain little islands off the coast of Scotland that he says there were black populations living. How they got there, how they found themselves there, we don't know. But we do know that the Moors were great sailors. We know that the name you mentioned, Dennis, earlier. Dennis
Hmm.
in Turkey, Denis, actually is the word for water in the dialects in the Ottoman regions, and it relates to seafaring peoples or seafaring families. So
Hmm.
I don't know if there's a crossover there with Denny's and the
Yeah.
black thing and
Well, the
um,
Moors are known for their navigation and their seafaring. So, I mean, that's just an interesting correlation, but that's, I'm just connecting dots. So, but that's still very interesting.
mm,
Um,
mm.
yeah, I see a troll in the chat saying everyone's
Yeah, yeah,
black, but
he's
brother,
gonna be
I'll only address you because I'm sure it's not going to end with you. But I will say, just look into it, man. Just research it. And so, if you either you don't want to believe it or you haven't even looked into it.
yeah,
So
he's gone. He's
I
gone.
was apprehensive myself, about all of this, right? But I'm a logical person and I'm open minded enough to look into things. So that's all I'm asking anyone here
Yeah,
watching this to do. So.
yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. This is an image of again. This is from Kapruki. He did a video on this recently. He's done several videos on this topic. Then a blackamoor's head. This is documented. This is from, I believe, Malcolm McRitchie's documentation of it, and then was synonymous with the Moorish insignia, Moor's head,
Yeah.
um, a long time ago. So that's not something you've made up. Yes, we were talking about Dionysus earlier,
Hmm.
and this
Yep.
is one of these early images I'm talking about. This is only one of them. Um,
Hmm.
and here you've got an individual. It says Dionysus, the Greek god of vegetation and fruitfulness, known especially as the god of wine. Roman equivalent was Bacchus. He was the son of Zeus. The first creator of wine. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to see if there's anything more interesting here. No, but yeah, I couldn't find my images of, but the images I found were even much more much stranger in comparison to these.
Hmm.
Um, okay,
Like more
so go
blacker.
on. Yes, yes,
Like,
more black,
well, send
definitely.
them to me. Send them to me then, because I'm still working on this book.
Okay,
So I like
I
any
will
good
do.
images you have. Yeah.
I will do. I will do most certainly. Okay. Then again, Vietnamese. You sent me that. It translates. It checks out as black. Um, Let me keep going, and I want to get to right. Let's get back to the images. Okay. I'll go back to this guy, and I don't know who this gentleman is, but word that came to mind was Bumpy Johnson. I don't know if you know who Bumpy Johnson was or is.
Was that a musician?
He sounds like a musician, yes,
Yeah.
but he wasn't a musician, he was a gangster. This is what Bumpy Johnson is. Bumpy
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. It's funny you mentioned that because I think he was as well. Literally.
Right. He's
Yeah.
got
So that.
mad gangster vibes. This individual
Yeah.
has got mad gangster vibes. Who is he?
So that is on my paternal side. That's my grand. That's my, what would that be? My great grandmother, Missouri, and that's her son. Um, they actually called him Miss. Even the new, there was actually an article I read about him in the newspaper. They call him like Mr. Sylvester or Mr. McCullum. So, but yeah, my biological father was telling me that he might have been involved in some interesting activity, and I think actually one of his younger brothers was possibly killed by the mob in Chicago. So yeah, this is in Chicago. Yeah,
And this is on your paternal side.
yeah,
He
yeah.
definitely look. It gives me. It get straight off. I thought definite. This guy was connected. Bumpy Johnson, just for people who don't know, was a big time crime boss in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance era, and
Mm.
I first came across him because I was looking. Lawrence Fishburne did a film. Can't remember what the name of the film was, but let me know in the chat if you guys remember it. But he played either Bumpy Johnson or Casper Holstein. He was another big gangster, but Bumpy Johnson was massive. Bumpy Johnson his reign of terror lasted into the 60s. He was, and can't remember how he died. I think he died whilst in prison, but yeah, he gives me that vibes, those vibes, and he's here again.
Yeah, so this is the whole
Again,
fam, brothers, and well, actually, I think some of them might be in-laws here. So that's him up there, but the gentlemen to the sides of him are married in, so they're brothers-in-law, and those are the sisters on the bottom there on my paternal side. Yeah, I think that's a
yeah,
cool picture. That was like a really
I tell you
controversial.
what, is an amazing picture. Sorry, say what was that?
Well, yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I was just gonna say that hairstyle is interesting, but I saw it a lot at that time. It must have been the wave back then. Yeah, but yeah, it's a cool picture, huh? But this is one of the ones I colorized. Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah,
you did this?
yeah.
Wow, that's I wouldn't have guessed that. I thought this looked like, I don't know, this looked original to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
My heritage. I don't know if you have it, but that colorizes photos really well, and then Ancestry sharpens them. So I usually use them both in conjunction. But I think I just did all this one on Ancestry, and actually turned out
Wow,
pretty
that's
good.
so cool.
Yeah.
And again, he's looking. I don't know. Someone's gotten on his nerves. Someone down here on the left
Yeah.
hand side.
One of the sisters. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness! I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be whoever it is he's looking at right now.
Right.
At that time. Oh my days.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just move on. That's Bumpy Johnson. It says was an American crime boss in Harlem, New York City. Um, this guy was big fish. He was taking some names. He was taking out white folk, Jewish folk. He was a rogue. He
Loose
afraid
cannon.
of a possible link. All right, this bit I found interesting about him. When he was 10, his older brother Willie was accused of killing a white man. Afraid of a possible lynch mob, his parents mortgaged their tiny home to raise money to send Willie up north to live with relatives. Johnson's nickname Bumpy is derived from a bump on the back of his head. As Johnson grew older, his parents worried about his short temper and insolence towards white people, and in 1919 he was sent to
Insolence.
live with his older sister Mabel in Harlem. Johnson
Mm.
dropped out of high school and began working in casual jobs. Gangster William Hewitt noticed Johnson, who began working for him, beginning his life of crime. Now, I'm not out here pushing a life of crime, pushing pushing gangsterism or anything like that. But again, this is part of what we're talking about, like with Hollywood. It's like they have one narrative, and it's that yes sir, yes sir, boss sir,
About to do the same thing. I was literally about to start.
I'll be a real
All
good
right.
slave.
I'll be right
That,
in the back of the bus, massa.
yeah, do you know what I mean? But they
Find me
don't
right
tell you that.
Crazy.
They don't tell you. They don't tell you that, some black folk were taking our white folk with impunity. Like they don't dramatize that, and it's almost like, not because it would be good to dramatize that, but at least it would be good to show you that Black America wasn't sat by passive like for hundreds of
Yeah.
years, just sitting on our hands and singing "Wade in the Water" and all that stuff.
Yeah. So when you
Well,
hear things like, and I'm a huge Kanye fan musically, when you hear things like him say, it was a choice, right? You could have jumped off or whatever, it just reinforces that narrative of, servility or, that wasn't the case. That's not the only story, right? You see these people clearly fighting back. And in their words, you can tell it wasn't a black man that wrote this. Insolence, right? It was a very interesting word to use, by the way, because
yeah,
it almost means like, how dare you,
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, but yeah, obviously there was a lot of insolent blacks, so they don't seem to talk about those as much. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first found out about this, and again, I think it was King that was talking to me. King was saying that he noticed that the 90s and the early noughties were probably, maybe it wasn't King, maybe someone said it in the live, but King, I was talking to King during that live, And shout out to him. Hopefully he'll be with me tomorrow for another live. We're gonna be looking at something else. But he said the 90s and the early noughties was the peak time for blacks, like in the Western Hemisphere. It was almost like there was a pause on things, everyone got along. White folk, and when I say got along, it wasn't like white folk we neared this kind of paradigm where there was almost equal respect, almost for like a flash, like a sort of mutual respect. And people, we could get films like Blade with Wesley Snipes, and there was no one talking about DEI or rolling their eyes or anything. It was just casual. We had
DEI vampire.
yeah. It was just a casual acceptance of the fact that black folk are here and they're glorious,
and people loved it. Yeah, people loved Blade, by the way. Yeah, so it wasn't everyone loved it.
Yeah. So there was all kinds of things going on that just, and then he did mention, he said something I never forget. I think he said it. King said it. He said it was Obama. He thinks took us back, because with Obama, and I think Obama is, again, might be controversial, but I feel like Obama might have been a psyop, a way of sort of making people feel like, just
even if you don't think he was a psyop, you can at least, because I felt this. I was calling this before he was elected, that regardless, his election, all it did, well, not all it did, but it definitely stirred resentment. I was like, I know this is going back.
Yes, stirred resentment. Yeah,
and I think that the current situation, you're seeing that, no matter who you support, right? Because I think the whole thing is a sham. But yeah, so yeah, I think you definitely saw that resentment before he was elected. Because I was actually in school in Kentucky at that time. And I don't know if you know anything about Kentucky, but it's like going in a time machine, right? Culturally, so. Even my teachers, they were saying wild stuff about him when he was running, right? They did not want that man to be elected. They thought he was a terrorist, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, that, like, I don't want to keep on cutting you off, but yeah, resentment grew.
No.
Resentment grew. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next image. Right. Next image again is the G. The guy who we'll be talking about looks like a gangster, and almost certainly was some kind of a big shot in the let's say crime world. Okay, that's him there on the. Okay, right. What's going on here?
So this is my grandmother on the right there. So this might actually be some kind of advertisement. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, some kind of circus thing, right? But it's cool. Yeah. And she's up there with another person, a person of a different ethnicity as well. So I think it also kind of goes against a popular narrative, right? While she was, getting arrested for doing things like the sit-ins, and she was involved in the civil rights movement, she was also finding time with people. Not everybody's an enemy, right? So we had plenty of people helping us, right? Or people that got along with us. So I don't know the inner workings of their relationship, but I think it's just a cool picture, and it's one that shows that it's not just like that same slave narrative, right? Or Jim Crow narrative, during her time. So
because how like your grandmother is in this picture, I actually, till you said that now, I didn't think the lady on the left hand side, I didn't actually realize she was white, a white lady. I thought she was just a light-skinned black lady too, but now you say, I don't know what was wrong with me. Of course, yeah, I can see she's white, but I think it's because of how the light-skinned nature of your grandmother's complexion, and the fact that we're looking at black and white pictures. So
yeah.
Okay. You said, oh, by the way, is this, you think it's an advertisement, but I think you also mentioned that it might have been Jet Magazine. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Jet Magazine. If I have it saved, I believe it was Jet Magazine. Yeah.
Jet Magazine is I don't know, chat. I don't know if you guys know what Jet Magazine is. Press 1 if you know what Jet Magazine is. I want to gauge how like what we actually know about this stuff, this history, but I didn't know anything about it. But it was, I think I'd heard very vaguely about it, but it was specifically like BET before BET.
Yep. And
I think it was a black owned magazine, kind of like the black equivalent of Life magazine.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm not sure about this one, but there's definitely a photo somewhere in here where that's out of Jet magazine. Yeah. Um, but yeah, BT before BT, right? A better
yeah,
version.
yeah, better, exactly, a better version.
Yeah.
And okay, so then then speaking of Life magazine, then we got this image, and I just want
Yeah.
to know, this is a member of your family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of my great uncles. Um, but I don't know if this is like just a joke kind of thing, like a gag, or if it's real. But I thought that was pretty cool. It's just a cool picture as well. Also a McCullum as well. And I think we have some land documents where we can go into their story as far as like the Mississippi Indians and all that. But I thought he was interesting because in every photo, there was even one you showed it like 2 or 3 photos ago, his mannerisms are very interesting, right? He always has like an interesting look on his face. They told me he was crazy, so like he was funny, but he was crazy. This guy apparently. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
I can't. So unfortunately, I don't know for sure if that's like actually
yeah,
real,
yeah,
or a gag.
yeah, yeah,
But if it is real, it's like, how did you, that's pretty cool that you
yeah.
got on there. Yeah, yeah.
Get on Life magazine. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Just a quick notification to the chat. You will be blocked if you're spamming. So someone's saying not everyone's a troll, blah blah blah, but people who are being blocked for a good reason. Okay, so he's not. No, he's not going to be unblocked. Okay, he's not going to be unblocked. So don't spam about it. Seven. He's not going to be unblocked because he kept spamming, kept saying the same old thing. We're not going to degenerate the chat into just somewhere to just spam a message. So he's not coming back. So move on or you're getting blocked too. All right. So is this a band?
Yeah. So this was like a gospel group. That is one of my great uncles there as well, on the top left. And yeah, this was a gospel group. I think they were called the Five Gospel Singers. I think you have the other picture in here where it has their name under it. But yeah, um, I think they even took their thing out to California as well, or at least I think he did. But yeah, this was a gospel uh, quintet.
Look at the Jerry curl on that on the brother in the middle.
Yeah,
My
and this might have
goodness.
been, and that might have been. Well, I guess around that time it was popular, but he might have been one of the early ones.
I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he was. My because he's looking like Marge Simpson almost. I can't be. I just that's incredible. That's definitely a pioneer. Flipping it.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Okay, but the guy in the top left hand is a was your
One of my great uncles, yeah.
one of your great uncles. Yeah. Wow. Looks you could walk past him in the street today. He looks straight out of like he wouldn't look out of place with an iPhone in his hand, basically.
Yeah. I don't
Wow.
know if you have it in there, but there's another picture of him when he's younger, and his hair is very interesting as well. It's like it looks, his phenotype looks very interesting. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Okay, so who is this? We were speaking about Indians and Native Americans earlier. Who's this? Again, I'm getting the sort of Native American vibe from just phenotypically looking at this lady.
Same, yeah. So that's on my paternal side. That's one of my, like, I think it might be my third grade or fourth great grandmother on my paternal side. If I'm not mistaken, her surname was either Green. Let's see if I can find it quickly. If not, I'll just give up. But but yeah, her as well. She was right. If you look at her phenotype, you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me see if I can find it. But you, just like me, it was interesting. Let's see here, Rose. Yeah. And just to everyone in the chat, if you have done your DNA with one of these things like ancestry or any of that stuff, don't ignore the genealogy side of it. Like, just look at the ethnicity estimate. I've found more elucidating information through doing the actual family tree stuff. So yeah, so she was a Jordan. Her maiden name is Jordan. She married a Green. But she is let's see here. She's my second great grandmother on my paternal side.
Wow.
Um, born in Tennessee, but she ended up, oh no, Tennessee, passed in Kentucky, I believe. But yeah, born in Columbia, Tennessee.
Okay, right. So check this out. So this is, I'm guessing, um, your mom, because
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see that, and it's a much more modern picture.
Hmm.
Yep, cool. Um, okay, and then we've got this lady,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna skip this because I want to get to something. Right, this you sent me this image. I want to know what this image is, because we're now gonna go into more detail about the Native American heritage in your family.
Yeah.
See if we can't pick something out here. Remember what I said at the beginning, guys. Remember what I said at the beginning. Columbus, we had a troll in the chat earlier saying, "Oh, you guys were everything, blah blah blah." Don't even know his name now because he's gone. So bye. But he was saying all this kind of crud, and but again, that's documented. It's documented. Look out for the video. It is coming out once I get my stuff together. But we do have record. We have it on record, and it's on YouTube. There's, I think, Without History's done documented this as well. Shout out to him. Did a real good video on Columbus about a year ago and what he found in America. It's documented that they found black people, um, what who people groups that you can only term black, you know, in the normal sense of the word that we know it today. They found these people on the American continent. They found these people mixed in, some of them mixed in with the Native American group, and some of them living secluded from them, but on good terms with quote unquote Native Americans. I guess if they were here before Columbus, they too could be classed as Native Americans, but certainly more native than Columbus's gang.
Mhm.
You know, so but that is on the record. So this ain't no we was anything. There were black
Yeah.
people on the Americas before the European arrived.
Yeah.
Now, who are we? What are we looking at? Is this anything to do with that? London.
So this is not anything to do with the like Indian stuff, but this is just out of my grandmother's house. Also showing you how this stuff didn't happen too long ago. But this is just like some minstrel nonsense that I figured I would just show you
Right,
in the
right.
chat. Hmm. Yeah.
Because
We can
we do
talk.
have images. We do have images of shout out to Craig again. He's not I've not seen him in the chat recently, but uh Craig R has sent some he's documented how a lot of the artwork depicting Indians. I don't want to be unpolitically correct, but you know, old habits die hard. But Native Americans, depicting them again, almost identical, phenotypically to Black Africans, even down to
Yeah.
um, like their hair, the
Yeah. And
kinkiness
then
of their hair. And we've seen that there are adverts for there are statues and statuettes of Indians trading with
cigars.
tobacco and cigars. Yeah, go on. You know what I'm talking about, London.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it's funny because this is like minstrel artwork, but those black children that are depicted look almost identical to a lot of the cigar Indian artwork that you would see. Yeah. So yeah, that's actually
Precisely.
good. Yeah.
Right. So right. This here, okay. So now we're going into an application. If there's anything on here you don't want me to show, I'll just skip.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll let you know.
Am I okay to show this document?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this, guys, if
There's
you're
no
watching
proof.
right now, it's very, very interesting. So can you tell us a story about this, London?
Absolutely. So this is an application for enrollment into the Choctaw tribe. And this is an interview, right, between one of my relatives and the stenographer, in which they're, whatever, they're asking them a series of questions. You had to basically prove, they would use like this blood quantum thing, almost as a way to deny people of their Indian heritage. But that's not even why they ended up denying his request. But it actually had nothing to do with blood quantum. It actually had to do it's actually pretty disrespectful what it really had to do with. But yeah, they basically ask him these series of questions. throughout, he's able to prove to them, and they admit that at least one of his relatives, right? Because I guarantee you there were more, but he just didn't know. Um, that at least one of his relatives was a Choctaw Indian, right? I believe it was his great grandmother or his grandmother. She had tattoos on her face and everything, like full blooded Choctaw Indian. That was also a slave alongside Africans, right? Or possibly Africans, right? But you definitely can't deny that they were Native American slaves side by side with blacks, right? So even if you don't think we was Indians, you can say, well, we at least mixed. Okay, that's historically very. Even Google will tell you that. Okay, so in this interview, he basically identifies his grandmother. She spoke the language. She had a tattoo on her face. Um, However, she was a slave at the time of his birth. And I believe shortly after he was born, the Civil War ended. Slaves were emancipated, right? So even though he was able to prove that, at the end he's denied because he was the child of a slave. So at the end they say, well, basically we have the right as the American government to decide who and who isn't an Indian, and because you were born of a slave, you can't be. And not on top of that, no freedman can identify as an Indian. So they never planned on letting him, you know what I mean? I don't even know why they gave him this interview. You know what I mean? It's almost like a punch in the face because they're basically saying no matter what you prove, because you are a freedman now and because you're the child of a slave, you can't be an Indian, even though you just told us and we admit that one of your family members, at least one, is Indian. So this is an example of paper genocide, right?
Paper genocide. Yep.
Yeah, using documents and um, misclassifications to basically give the impression that a group is either gone extinct or who knows what happened to them, right? So this is a prime example of this proves mixing at the very least, and also proves
At the very least, at the very
yeah,
least,
and also proves the systematic denial of Indian heritage if you were dark skinned, So, and I guarantee he probably wasn't even, he might have been lighter than me, but he was black, right? So, um, yeah.
let me say something, because people are touching on it in the chat. They're saying we will never satisfy, as a Caribbean girl says, we will never satisfy those people. We just need to continue our re-education. Well, some of them will never satisfy anyway, but I think I kind of got lost what I was going to say there, but just basically along the same lines as that, we don't need to satisfy anybody at this stage, because a lot of this stuff is really a kick in the face. It's really a kick in the face because it's not really gone anywhere. The legacy of it is still around till today. We got people with no melanin in their skin claiming, legitimately so. I think Trump used to make fun of this this congresswoman or something, or Pocahontas or something, he would say. This, I can't remember her name, but yeah, like I mean, she got away for ages. I mean, she got away for ages claiming that until it was debunked that she wasn't. I think a lot of European Americans willy-nilly claim that, and I think we'll have the documentation. You said paper genocide earlier. Whilst they're paper genociding a group of people, on the other hand, they're writing themselves into history. There used to be this, I don't know, I might have a sizable UK audience listening, and I don't know who's around my age, but when I was growing up, there was this show on this daytime TV show on daytime TV show. Listen, B, you can I just say this? B says, let me just quickly on a side note educate B. He says, how can black people be indigenous to the winter colds of America? Go and look at the Inuit population. Go and look at what they said when they first met, when they met a black man in the 1800s, a black American man who actually seemed to be, by all accounts, the first person to reach the actual North Pole. The Discovery's done a great thing on his story, and they said he looks like us. Go and look at what the Inuits looked like. A massive contingency of Inuits were dark skin as can be. dark skin
Yeah.
as can be. So you obviously have not stepped foot out of that basement that you are stinking up right now. You don't know anything about anywhere in the world. So you just you think you do, but we'll let you pass. Just behave yourself, otherwise
And
you
B
get
and B,
removed.
I'll also say this, even though I doubt anything will convince you. I'll also say, if that's too much of a stretch, too far fetched for you to believe, I'm not talking about Alaska or anything, man. I'm talking about the southeastern United States, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, places where the climate is actually hot. And you can actually even, if you want to ask, why don't you go ask ChatGPT what type of skin is the most contextually suitable to Florida's climate? It'll be interesting what it actually tells you. So I'll just put it that way. If melanated skin is, the most versatile kind of type of skin, why would we only be indigenous to one place on the planet? And
It,
we're not. You can actually ignore Native Americans, and you can look at the Austronesians, or I don't know if that term's outdated. You can look at other Black groups that aren't African, right? And Aborigines, all that stuff. These are people all around the world in tropical climates, right? So why wouldn't that be the case in the American islands, the southeastern United States, where it's hot, humid? You know, just logic, just common sense.
They said he asked and incidentally he asked them what did they say. They said like he looked like they were kinder to him because he looked like them. The Inuit said the in their accounts, in the written accounts, the Europeans at the time, they said they treated the African American gentleman amongst them because he had the same complexion as them. So I really don't know. I really don't know like how certain people can be so brazen with their ignorance, but complexion
Yeah,
for the protection, I guess, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. But I found this interview really, 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 really interesting. Um, so he's
yeah,
applying to be for his Indian is native heritage to be recognized, and you
yeah,
got this very, very, very condescending sounding man saying, what is your name? The way I read this, he could have added boy at the end of a lot of these questions. The
yeah.
guy
It's more of
says,
an interrogation.
yeah, it sounds like an interrogation. What's your
Yeah.
name? A. James McCollum. What is your age? 47. What is your post office address? He gives his post office address. What county? He says his county. Is your father living? Um, and again it's just very, very interrogative and
Hmm.
almost condescending. He says
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna zoom in here. He says how long has your father been dead? Sorry, 5 years. How old was he when he died? I don't know, sir. About how old? About 70 years old, I guess. Did he always live here in Mississippi? Yes, sir, born and raised in Mississippi. But you got a guy obviously polite back to you, all right? He's very polite in his response. He's responding with yes, sir. And this individual is like, maybe there's an age gap, maybe that's what's going on. But where the interviewer feels at liberties to just say, about how old as a follow-up when the guy says, I don't know how old he was when he died. And then he
Yeah.
says, was he a slave? Yes, sir. Were you a slave? What? What do you mean? If he wasn't, okay, yeah, fair enough. His father was a slave. So what year is this?
Um, does it say it on there? 1901.
1901. Sorry, it says at the beginning. It says at the top, 1901.
And I think this is a
Ah,
woman interviewing him as well. Not that that makes a difference, but I just don't sense any femininity here. you know,
oh, so it's a woman who's interviewing him.
I believe so. Yeah, I know the
Wow.
stenographer. I think is a woman. I think it's her name is at the end. And what's funny about her, being the interviewer and the stenographer, she even inputs at the end like her own personal opinion at the end as well, which isn't. It just all seems to me like a way. This is all set up to deny these people.
Mm.
But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so he's applying to have that part of him recognized, and the interview like just reads very condescending, very like perfunctory in the way the interviewers going about it, and then you have the conclusion, which I found really interesting. But the conclusion says, it appears from the record here that application for identification Mississippi. Why did they deny him again? Sorry, I know you went over this, but why? What was the reason for denying him? Because if you read the thing, the back and forth, it sounds like he actually has more than a good case.
Yeah. So he does, right? Like he said, he wasn't a slave, but his mother was. So what they say here is, said commission shall have the authority to determine the identity of Choctaw Indians. So first of all, the government's basically saying it doesn't matter what you say. We reserve the right to say who's who, right? The people that oppress you are all. We also get to decide who you are, right? Um, identity of Choctaw Indians claiming rights in the Choctaw lands under Article 14. Got it? Can you zoom back in? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
you're good. Yeah, if you could zoom back in, yeah. I was just reading right off of that. But yeah, all right, so
Should I go back
um
to the first page?
yeah, if you could.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So it says um basically says we get to decide who's who. It also appears from the testimony that the principal applicant herein was born of a slave mother prior to the Emancipation Proclamation and himself and was himself a slave, even though he said no. And that the other applicants and lineal descendants of him, because it's basically saying you're all descendants of slaves. So not only you, even though you weren't a slave, your mother was. So that means that that applies to you and your children as well, because he's applying for him and his children on this. So you can go to the next page.
And this is what I mean. It's like, um, you really educated me on this. But you're speaking about Melungeons, and I don't know. Press one in the chat if anyone knows what I mean when I mention Melange. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Melangians or Melungeons. And I looked into them, and it's now been admitted from the little I've been able to find out, but it's now been very slowly admitted that the Melungeons were kind of Native Americans, but with inexplicable mass uh DNA, African DNA,
Mm-hmm.
like a substantial, sizable amount of African DNA. And they didn't really know what to make of the Melungeons till I think they tried to. There was this Plecker guy or something that you sent me information about, and
Yeah.
he was trying to literally do this paper genocide where he was trying to classify them all as mulattoes or Negroes, but certainly not Indians.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've got this schizophrenia, almost like what you said, paper genocide, where any troublesome, you've got this regime that's obviously done what it's done to the Native Americans, right? But at the same time, wants to write itself into that story as well. So what you had in Virginia, it seemed to me, was a system that was set up to have white people. So the racial purity law that was signed into that was passed in Virginia in the early 20th century, that was actually designed to make it easier for white people to claim Native American ancestry,
Yeah. I
whereas
think you have that
everyone.
picture later.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I think you have that picture later, and
Okay,
when you bring it up, I'll read it.
let me
Yeah,
go
that's it.
to this
Go
one
back.
here.
That's it. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. So this says the
It's
new Virginia law to preserve racial integrity. Go on, I'll zoom in so you can read that for us and explain it.
Yeah, it says mixtures of either of these crossings with true Negroes should be designated as black, Negro, or colored. The term Indian will no longer be accepted for that class, but must be applied only to those of known pure Indian blood or those mixed with white. If there is a mixture of Negro, they must not be classed as Indians, but as Negro or mixed Indian. This is in black and white saying that even if you are mixed with Indian or an Indian or you're dark skinned, whatever, you're a Negro. But if you're mixed with white, it's cool. You know what I mean? This is black and white. This is evidence of paper genocide. This is evidence of misclassification of a peoples. So it's just, yeah, black and white
It
for
says
or it's colored.
it says
Crazy.
what you've highlighted there in green, I can't believe. If there is a mixture of Negro, they must not be classed as Indians, but as Negro or mixed Indian.
And they
So
didn't use mixed Indian. I'll just let you know that right now. That was never used. It was just Negro. You know, they're
wow.
being generous there because even in documents, I'm not seeing mixed Indian on any kind of records. You know.
So
So
that's
yeah.
literally how they wrote the heritage of a lot of people just out.
Mm-hmm.
So to the state, and this is why you have to take what I, I'm looking for a very good phrase or word for the other side puts out as academic rigor and fair and balanced analysis, because
Yeah.
there is predicated, a lot of it is predicated on years and years of this kind of paper genocide, where
Yeah.
they've literally written people out of history through through legislation and all other shenanigans. They've written like the black identity and the black experience and black history out of existence. So you had the Melungeons who were native to this country. Some of them were native to America, but some of them were, like it seems, mixed in with Black American slaves, enslaved peoples, and but some quite a massive amount of them where it seems from the record already here, and they had that Negro phenotypic look, that negritic admixture. And I think the best explanation I found was on Wikipedia, saying that some of them might have been mixed with Songhai, people brought from the Songhai Empire of Mali,
Yeah.
in the, early on in the 1500s. But again, that doesn't make any sense, because we have records of the early white explorers saying, no, 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 we found these people here. We
Yeah.
found a lot of these native people here, looking like we hadn't like just crossed the ocean to get here, looking like the people back in Africa. So how they got here, we don't know.
Yeah. People also surmise that they might be Moors as well. That was another theory popping around, or
That's
at
my
least mixed
theory.
with yeah.
That's my
Mm-hmm.
theory. That's my theory. And again, I don't want to spoil anything. People know, but I don't want to spoil it for my audience anyway. For the video that's coming up, and how the Moors ended up, how you could have Moorish ancestry on the American continent pre Columbus. Well, we'll go into that another day. But this is the guy we're talking about, Plecker.
Yeah.
Plecker's hit list.
Yeah, and I saw somebody in the chat, I believe it was Jacqueline, talking about Plecker. She's right about Plecker, but I also want to just let her clarify. This started way before Plecker. He was just, one of many in the long line of people that were perpetuating things like this Virginia Racial Integrity Act and all that. So, but yes, so this here is a list of surnames that he released. It says here surnames by counties and cities of mixed Negroid, mixed, by the
You've gone
way.
far from the microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Better, better.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna turn it up a little bit actually. Hold on. But yeah, it's actually funny because as I'm reading this, I didn't even see the mixed part. So he's admitting to a mixture. But anyways, it says here, this is a list of mixed Negroid Virginia families striving to pass as Indian or white. Okay. Um, Now, what's interesting about this list is I have multiple surnames on this list. I think I have 3 or 4 that show up: Dennis, Cash, Freeman, and I believe there's one more. Um, Coincidence? When my family's telling me we have Indian heritage.
And you got
Um,
Dennis there.
and Dennis, so Cash is my grandfather. He was a Peoples. His maternal surname was Cash. Um, and then my grandmother, her paternal surname was Dennis. And I think if you scroll down, you'll see Freeman, which is another surname that's on my maternal side. But then you'll also see, just as a little side note, you'll see names like Stewart. Us here in this family, we've been questioning the Stewart line, so that's just another interesting side note. But yeah, do you believe Plecker? Because I don't. I don't think I don't think that these are people striving to be something they're not. Right? especially at that time when they tell you that Indians were persecuted, or American Indians, indigenous Native Americans were persecuted to no end, right? So, yeah, I think that's an interesting little note there.
Walter, I don't believe Plecker at all, to answer your question. Walter Ashby Plecker, he sounds like a sick man. Listen to this fact, guys. Walter Ashby Plecker was a physician and the first Virginia state registrar of vital statistics, a position he served in from 1912 to 1946. He was a staunch promoter of eugenics. I won't patronize us. I think we know what eugenics is. A discredited movement aimed at scientifically proving white racial superiority. Well, there it goes. It tells us. And thereby justifying the marginalizing of non-white people. Employing Virginia's Act to preserve racial integrity, Plecker effectively separated Virginia citizens into two simplified racial categories, white and colored. The law, which remained in effect until 1967 when it was overturned by the United States Supreme Court in Loving versus Virginia, required that a racial description of every person be recorded at birth. Wow. While criminalizing marriages between whites and non-whites. Plecker's policies used deceptive scientific evidence to deem blacks a lesser class of human beings, but they also targeted poor whites and anyone he or other eugenicists considered feeble-minded, asserting that Indians were in fact mixed-blooded Negroes. Plecker also pressured state agencies into reclassifying Indians as colored. The policy's legacy was effectively to erase Indian as an identity and has made it difficult for Virginia Indians to gain state and federal recognition. Wow. Wow.
This guy was on a tear. So.
That's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And that might explain, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a lot of you will get a streak of a toxic streak among Native Americans today who are very, very like keen to say we're different to blacks and whatnot. Anytime it's brought up, the overlap, like this sort of racial overlap, is brought up, and I think that might be the legacy of this kind of a thing, because if you're erasing the Indian identity with a stroke of a pen, do you know what I'm trying to say? With the stroke of a pen, and the Indians are trying to preserve their identity as well, you've got this, like, it can only breed like this resentment against quote unquote black folk as well, to be like, oh, we're different from you. This is your fault that we're being treated like this.
Absolutely. Exactly. Divide and conquer, and I do just want to also reiterate, me looking into this stuff as well is in no way denying my, African roots, or it's not, I'm very proud, if anything, African culture, right, is to be heralded, right? So I'm very proud of that. And then also, I do see a lot of people fall into these groups, and I'm not knocking them, but FBA, Hebrew Israelite, they fall into these groups and it almost makes their viewpoint so rigid, right? Or they almost get toxic with it. Like I see amongst a lot of Black people that do acknowledge this history of of Native American ancestry, they become like anti-African or something, right? And it's sad to me because, guys, two things can be true. You can be African and Native American. You don't have to, you don't have to supplant one for the other. So, yeah, I just want everyone to keep their head, I am not going to be, I'm going to research my history to its fullest extent. Okay. So I'm not, no one, you guys don't have to do that or whatever, but that's what I'm going to do. And wherever it leads, good, bad, ugly, in between, I'm going to acknowledge all of that. Okay. So,
cool.
I just wanted to also reiterate that. Yeah. And also, I don't want to take away from anybody else's identity. So I'm not claiming somebody else isn't something. I'm just saying, hey, this is my family. This is what this is stuff I found. So hopefully it just serves as a springboard for other people to look into it as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something. Thank you for that, London. That's important. I've said something tantamount to that before, but it's important
Mm-hmm.
that you're saying that yourself.
Yeah.
So I believe you sent me this. I really try to skip the AI thing that they've put onto Google now. So whenever I type something, I really try and ignore the AI answer, because I believe there's an agenda behind that as well. There's an agenda to make us
Absolutely.
really dependent on that, and then when we're dependent on that, they start to memory hole a
I'm
lot of
actually
the
worried about it. I'm worried about it as well because
right.
people are like AI is like, is like science and it's like
Yeah,
God, right? People
yeah.
are almost think it can do no wrong. It's AI. It's impartial.
Hmm.
Someone's writing AI. It's pulling from a database, right? A source, so it's not impartial. But anyways, yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
no, that's a very good point. I've had
But to your
people.
point, earlier, usually when you find something that's against the narrative and it's something like this telling you, it's you should probably believe that, right?
Mm,
So it's, or at
mm,
least it gives it a little bit more credence if it's against the accepted narrative. And usually you have to query things in the right way for them to tell you this. You might ask it,
mhm.
but you know all about that. Anyways, brother, continue.
Well, I've had people come. I've had people come to me and say, I had to push AI. I had to push AI to get you made a
Yeah.
claim in one of your videos, and I went and AI said it was wrong, but then I asked it another way and it said exactly what you were saying. This
It's
is
almost like,
exactly
oh, yeah, they know more
yeah,
than I thought. Let me
that's
adjust my answer.
exactly what
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're talking about, is that
Mhm.
they're using they're using AI to hide a lot of stuff, and but whilst on one hand getting you to believe that it cannot be wrong. So we're going to get to a stage where people are going to put their complete trust in AI, and the rug's going to just be pulled from under their feet with a lot of with a lot of our history and things like that. But anyway, I'm butchering the
Mhm.
point. I think the point is well made. But let me just say, this is something that it said about the Melungeon people. It said, according to DNA studies, Melungeons, a mixed race population primarily found in Appalachia, shout out to whoever said that earlier, show a significant presence of sub-Saharan African ancestry. A significant presence of sub-Saharan ancestry, indicating that a substantial portion of their lineage, okay, can be traced back to African men, particularly through the paternal line. Right? And we've got indentured servants in the colonial era. Um, that's what AI is saying, but again, I've seen studies to suggest otherwise. Just in the brief time that I've been looking
Mhm.
at this, that's for another time and another video. But
Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt.
take that with a grain of salt, exactly. But at least they're admitting that the sub-Saharan quote unquote presence in the
Yes.
Melungeons. Let me just go out of this and go to the next. This is the typical image of Melungeons that you'll get. But even in these typical limited hangout images, you will have you still have the little brother on the left hand side looking like he does.
Hmm.
Um, you got this
To be
family
fair,
here.
that looks actually blacker than probably my cousin, and he's mixed. So
Yeah,
yeah, on the
yeah.
left there, yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
and you got this family here. And this is just an article a Wikipedia article on Melungeons. Um, I'll go quickly. I think I just got a super chat. Just let me respect that and say thank you very much, Mystery Plots. Mystery Plots says, I highly suggest you all check out Kurimeo Ahau. He's definitely leading the charge on this topic. Dodge the hijacks. Dodge the hijacks.
Yeah,
Says Mystery Plots for
that's the thing.
thank you for that super chat, Mystery Plots.
Yeah, that's his catchphrase there. I've been watching him as well ever since I've been kind of hip to this information. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, he presents a lot of good information, so definitely go check him out. Um, like with me, like I don't believe anybody 100%. I don't agree with anyone 100%, but there's invaluable information that I think he's uncovering. So I would definitely go check that out, especially with regards to the black presence in the Americas pre-Columbus. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. I stumbled on his stuff a long time ago, but some of the stuff some of his work is very interesting. I'm not sure about
Yeah,
all of it, but some of it is very noteworthy.
agreed.
Is this the Melungeon man that we're looking at?
Possibly.
Right.
He could Melungeon maybe native, but this is another one of my ancestors. I believe it's like a third great uncle, fourth great, third
Wow.
great uncle. Um, But there is one that we'll see later of a woman. I think I sent you those pictures earlier. I think looks even more strikingly like those like the pictures they would typically show, right? But
Mm.
this gentleman right here, does he just look like a West African man? I mean, possibly, right? But I think that definitely his phenotype is interesting. I put it that way. So, and he was very
Interesting.
dark. He was a very dark
Interesting,
man.
bro. Very dark, man. But even on the African continent, you get people that look like this. You get them in
Mhm.
the northwest of Africa. You get them in that
Yep,
north of Senegal,
exactly.
Mauritania.
And to
And
me,
yeah, go
that
on.
would lead to a Moorish possibility, right?
Right, right.
So yeah. Hmm.
Then you got this lady. I believe she too might be Melungeon. I think you sent me this image, and I think this might be one of your
I
ancestors
think
as
that's
well.
his wife. I think that's his wife. Yeah.
Right, right. Just zoom in on that. I think the next image zooms in.
Hmm.
Okay, I've got my word for this image is Idris Elba. I don't know. He looks like Idris Elba to me.
Well, I'm sure he would appreciate that if he were still here.
He so
You know,
looks like Elba.
and
Who
shout
is
outs
he?
Arsenal as well. But I don't know. I can't remember exactly who this gentleman is. To be fair, I just resubscribed to my ancestry. I stopped paying for a while, but so it flooded me with all these new images. So I just found this one recently, decided to send it. But to me, it reminded me of a black cowboy, right? Because a couple of years ago, I think something came out about the black cowboys, and people like laughed at us, right? Like Negroes weren't farming and Negroes weren't,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So to me, I don't know exactly what he is, but it was interesting, right?
yeah.
Maybe it's just a hat, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's on my paternal side, I believe, though. But I might be mistaken about that. To be fair, yeah, Idris Elba's a good one. I like that. I think he would like that too. Yeah. So
And
this is
then
Mary Moore. Yeah, this is one of my maternal great grandmothers. I can't remember the number of greats, but yeah, she is actually. It's funny because this is the only picture I found of her where she's actually holding a child that's her own. Okay. Every picture I found of her, she's holding like a white child. Nothing wrong with that, right? But it's something that would happen a lot. Is you'd have these black women raising these white kids.
yeah,
So to me, I think we'll get to that picture later, but it's almost just it's like a sad thing to see how people can be. Yeah, there you go. Right. So to me, that's just like it's almost like betrayal. It's like, and I've actually experienced this in my own life with friends. You grow up with people from all different backgrounds, right? My best friend was a white guy, and all throughout school we were homies, and then something happens later in life. You're the media, maybe your life not going exactly the same way you want. You start trying to figure out, okay, who's the enemy, right? And the media
mm,
will lead you to to who they want you to believe the enemy is. So he kind of flip flop and became like kind of racist, So to me, this is just an example of how I guarantee I don't know anything about this lady. She could have grown up and been an activist for black rights, right? But I know with the majority of a lot of these people, it's like they were raised by black people. They're raised by black women, and but then they grow up and they, in a lot of cases, a lot of those people back then despised them. So yeah, just wanted to show that because it's almost like sad to see her in every picture taking care of somebody else's kid, you know. But she was a Moore as well, by the way, a surname Moore.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Um, I was just distracted slightly there. Do you say the word and I'll block Pac-Man 22 because that's not I don't know why you're coming for my guest, but I will not tolerate that. So I don't know what you want me to do with Pac-Man London, but that's really annoying. You can't talk about someone not having a clue. He's come with receipts and he's talking about his heritage. He's got a better clue about his heritage than you do. That's for sure. All right.
Yeah, no, actually, to be fair, Pac-Man, I don't disagree with him. I just think he's been kind of aggressive with his opinion. So
Okay.
we're not saying here that I'm not denying my native history. I don't know if he's maybe getting on semantics because I've been very kind in this live to not, I don't want to, anger the wrong people. I'll put it that way. So I'm just
Yeah.
presenting my family history. Okay. But if you want to
Yeah.
talk about semantics and maybe, I know Native American wouldn't be the right term to use for those black and you would call them, American Indian or Indigenous American. I
Yeah.
understand the whole, so there's a lot of people that are like, we're not African at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that might be the case for a lot of Americans, but I don't want to, I'm not going to. I think it would be arrogant of me and short to just assume that as well. Just like I assumed I wasn't native before or had any, I can't deny, confirm or deny yet.
Yeah,
Have
but
African ancestry,
the thing is, you don't. It makes your argument seem that less credible when you start doing things like that, because the truth speaks for itself. You don't need to insult anybody.
Exactly.
When you start insulting people, it's more likely that you don't know what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
just you're just some kind of nut job. So I think Sir Facton's already got to him anyway. So thank you very much, Sir Facton. We've got our Medjay archers in the building. So thank you very much. Batman, you're gone. Sorry. And you get reincarnated, behave better. Not that I believe in reincarnation. Anyway, right. Let's go on. We got demonstrators there. Is this your grandma again? I can see her. I can see
Yeah,
her.
you can see her.
She's there.
Yeah, she's smiling, right? You see her back there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is hilarious. To me, this just yells defiance, or I get the last laugh. They're smiling while being arrested, So I think that's like a screw you, basically, So yeah, I think that was, and they're doing some kind of sorority thing? I don't know what that is, right? But it's pretty cool.
She's a troll. She's a troll.
This is OG trolling.
She had that same smile on her face in the first picture that I presented this.
She had that same smile when she was getting married.
She just started for the vibes.
Yeah. And shout out as well. This is something I wasn't really paying attention to originally, but right in front of her is a white woman, right? So I just also want everyone to know here, I'm not demonizing anyone. I'm not claiming victimhood in any kind of way. I feel like for YouTube, you have to spell things out like so elementary because
you
so
do.
Yeah,
but
there's someone fighting for There's someone fighting for Black rights. Now I know people, whatever. I just want to say that there's someone doing that. That's all. I'll leave it at that.
Exactly. But no, it's a fair point to make. We had and we have white allies, forgive the phrase, yellow allies, whatever, man. This is about humanity, and the only reason why any of this is important in terms of color and everything is because of the unfortunate path that history took. So and we know what unfortunate path that is, but again, like I said, it's like trying to describe a dog without mentioning that it barks. It's like it's just, you have to talk about certain elements of history, and some people would rather, just to save their feelings, they would rather we don't talk about it because we're supposed to move on. Well, that's deal with that in yourself, but we have to talk about this stuff. But on the other side, on the upshot of that too, is that we had white allies. We had like real ride or die, just decent human beings on our side as well. So that's another thing. We get a lot of in the comments and in the chats. A lot of us quote unquote Afrocentrist content producers. We get a lot of people coming with an energy that it's not the right energy. You don't want to be. It's not the right energy. It's almost like, guys, we're perpetuating the same negativity that we are angry about.
Exactly.
So there's no need for that.
And I will, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I will address the chat one more time as well, just to the more hardcore people in here saying, that we're not African, right? Trust me. So, that this started because of that, right? So I'm not claiming or denying anything, okay? In fact, that interview that we just went over, where my ancestors like applying for the Choctaw, whatever. In that interview, he talks about his grandfather who was married to the Choctaw woman, and he says that it was an African man. Now, I don't know if that's factual or just his assumption, okay? But when I hear things like that, I also can't deny those, just like I can't deny possibilities of American Indian ancestry. So that might be the case for a lot of Americans. I'm not even saying I don't believe that, but I'm going to remain open-minded as I learn. Okay. So, what I do know for fact is I have both, but what I will say to some of these more hardcore people in the chat is that, I have tried to find African ancestry as far as tracing it back. I found more indigenous documents um, than I have African ones. But I'm not denying anything. I'll put it that way, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
Until I know, okay? I'd like to know before I assume and make a conclusion. So can we just all remain open minded, at least in this chat? Okay.
Definitely, definitely. I was someone reminded me earlier. I was saying something. They said BBC or ITV. So back in the UK, just to go back in the UK when I was growing up, there was this show. It came on around the same time as, again, my UK brothers and sisters. If you remember the Demon Headmaster, the original Demon Headmaster, on CBBC, with Angelica and the crew. So there was this show that used to come on. I can't remember the title of it now, but the villain in that show, it wasn't a cartoon, it was live action, and the villain in that show was this woman, uh who would go back in time, and she was called, I can't remember, time steal or something. She'd go back in time and she would steal inventions. So say the light bulb, or say the refrigerator, or say the I don't know, locomotive train. She would go back, and steal the invention, so she's basically changing the course of history, so that in present day she is like empress of everything. She is this genius person, blah blah blah. And these kids find a way to travel back in time and try to stop her doing this, and just writing herself into every bit of like important history. And yeah, so I was thinking about that show, because I always think about that show when I think of like this thing that you talk about, paper genocide, about how whilst they write us out of history whilst the Western institutions write, Black history and Black achievements out of history, it simultaneously injects itself. So whilst you're saying that Blacks with 3/4 Indian heritage can't classify as Native American, you're saying that whites with like whose great grandfather raped a Native American slave or something, you're saying that they can be, classed as Native American. Do you see what I'm trying to say there? It just kind of reminds me of that show. Watching that growing up, I can't I can't remember the title. It escapes me, the name of the show. But yeah, that's what I think of when I think of these, the way Western study of our history goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go. I've just got super bad James Brown. Sorry, I know this is your I know this is your like family pictures, but this brother on the left reminds you of James Brown. I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, that's an honor, bro. James Brown was the man.
Yeah, he was.
I get Short King, because that's
Who's
his wife
that?
right there. That's his wife too. Yes, I get Short
Okay.
King.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's family member as well.
Yeah. So, well, he was married in. So to the right, that's my blood, like I think great aunt, and
Right.
that's her husband. Yeah. But
Okay.
that man to me also looks very indigenous. Yeah.
Yes.
He actually looks a lot like the Egypt ship models. They're the fro. Yeah. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does. He does. He
Mm-hmm.
definitely does. Right.
His fro is
Okay.
definitely falling in that same way.
Yeah, exactly. So Uncle Joe and Aunt Masetta, and this
Mm-hmm.
is Uncle Joe here, but Uncle Joe's carrying some swagger here, man.
Yeah, dude. Uncle Joe in all his pictures, he looks just cool as can be. Um, Navy man as well. Like fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I had too many, relatives fighting in every single war. So this is another one of a long list of those gentlemen. I'm actually trying to find out exactly who he is, because he's another one of those that I just kind of found the photos of. I'm on Ancestry now, but I can't confirm or deny, but I believe he was, let's see here. I believe he was I think he might have been my granduncle.
Right.
I think from Mississippi as well.
These are all really good looking people. Absolutely really good looking people. I shout out to your heritage, man. Okay,
Hmm.
and I'm guessing your grandmother, or no, no, this I know what your grandmom looks like, but this
Yeah,
doesn't look like her.
yeah, no, but it's on her side. It's
All
because I
right,
got
okay.
that from her pictures, but I don't.
Mm.
I think that might be one of her. Like I don't know if it's like an aunt of hers. I'm not sure. Yeah. The Lambs, Captain Lamb. Let's see here. Oh, Sandra Grace, Mama. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Gorgeous, gorgeous people.
All right, and
This
over here, I had to do a little. My eyes went juicy
double
because I
take,
saw, yeah, double take. I saw potential mother somewhere here, and I was like, "Ooh, what's going on there? Am I? Is
brother.
there?"
You and me both. There's a lot of interesting things about this one here. So when I first started doing my ancestry and tracing it back, I believed at that time I believed the accepted narrative, right? Any kind of lightness was European. You know, and that was always because there was some slave master that R-worded a slave, and that's how that happened, right? So when I was looking at my family tree, the first white person I saw was this lady, right, married to a black man in my family, right? So I'm like, what in the world? Like, was she like something wrong with her? Like, why would she marry a black man back then, right? And it doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. She wasn't white, so so she was actually classed as mulatto. On the first census she appears on, she's classed as a mulatto in parentheses white. Census right after that, she's classified as black. So for the rest of her life, she's actually classified as a black woman, looking this fair, right?
Hmm.
But she was also from that area in Tennessee. And when you look at the other pictures of her, I think she might have been. It reminds me a lot of the Melungeon thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That.
Unfortunately, I mean, I did hear about like a story about her as well. Something about like a slave master kind of. Even though she had a family and children, I think he would kind of take advantage of her when he would that kind of thing.
Right. Right. Right.
But this lady was giving. She had like a crazy amount of kids. She was like giving birth her whole life basically. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
I think a lot of
But yet
people. Sorry.
this
Go on.
lady went from white to black in one lifetime. So she did
Hmm.
like an opposite Michael Jackson.
And that's funny. That's funny coming from a cultural context that now wants to act all brand new when it comes to ancient Egypt. Like they'll see people who ostensibly look phenotypically white,
Mhm.
with dark colored dark with dark brown as you can get, and acts like they can't envisage on the continent of Africa, they can't envisage black people having phenotypic variety that looks white, but they're still
Yeah.
black. This is so you've got people from this kind of background who are like, oh wow, you know, just because he was black as such doesn't mean he was black. He could have been a Hamite or all of
Mhm.
this rubbish. But in America itself, you're classifying people who look this fair as black because of the one
Yeah.
drop rule.
Yeah. And those same people, they don't know like the diversity of a black family, especially in the States,
Mm.
because I even received those questions from white people here, or actually not just, I don't even want to label a group, not just white people, Hispanic,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes even certain black people, they're like, what are you? What, like, so there's so much diversity in our families, those people can't be the ones to judge who is what when they can't even understand the diversity of families that are living right next to them. They're going to determine what the ancient Egyptians were, no. So, yeah.
Yeah,
We know all about that here in the States because our families are so, it's crazy, like even
yeah.
with my parents, right? My mom is like, she's darker like me, but the other two of her siblings are light skinned. We just have so much diversity. In one generation, you can see it. So, yeah.
Mm, mm. Okay, so um, I want to skip to what have I got here?
And to Lori, I don't think we're saying anyone like we're the same people though,
I ignore him. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm just trying my best to ignore him because
yeah.
I think that he
Um,
gets. Yeah, go on.
and the Hamite stuff as well. It's like I don't know, I leave everything on the table. Um, but what I will say is, maybe to stop the division so much, we can just say instead of Pan African, Pan Black, or I don't know, Black
Yeah,
whatever something. It's because I think we still need this unity regardless of what people are who.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we all have a very similar experience, um, and you can't deny mixing. Like so.
yeah,
I'm not saying it
definitely.
happens to every family, but it's happened, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
He's gone anyway. He's gone. He's gone. Right.
yeah,
So, we got Uncle Herm and Aunt Meg. I just want to say that again. It seems to me like we got. Let me go there quickly. We
yeah,
got somebody that we know mutually who is of the belief that a lot of these images, so for example, the one I'm looking at, are not of, they're not of, no problem, RJ, no problem. A lot of these images are not of people who ever
former
were
slaves.
ever were enslaved, because just look at them. They
Hmm.
now there are two. Look at them in the sense that look at the confidence they exude. Look at the records. Look at the property they owned. Now this is true when you go into the records and you look at African American history, Black American history. Um, like it's not actually immediately clear with a lot of folk that they would have had ancestors who were slaves, because for example the Benjamin Franklin Dennis chap you were talking about in your line, he did an amazing amount. He achieved an amazing amount. So one of the arguments that is put forward to say, look, these people were never slaves, is the idea that just look at them, look at what they owned, look at how the confidence they exuded. They were
Hmm.
here before. You don't break a people and have them owning land and have them owning property and have them exuding this confidence we see in the photos. Now, for me, I've got loads of ways to answer that. But what do you make of that? I mean, what do you? I don't, do you know who I'm talking about? Where I'm coming from? I
Absolutely,
just,
yeah. I was actually talking to him about it earlier today.
yeah.
Because I was actually looking at my tree and looking at, I think someone that was like possibly related of a different
Mm,
race, and when I was looking at their photos, they didn't have nearly as many. A lot of them were like drawn. They didn't look very good. But a lot of these black families, you can go back and find all these pictures, and of them do, and they don't look poor. The records, you can see them owning a lot of land, farming on their own farms. There's a lot of evidence to back that up.
mm.
So yeah, it's not a theory that I've researched enough to confirm or deny, but it's definitely something that I have been that I do acknowledge could be very well be true, for sure. But that does go against a very large narrative, right? So for me
It
to
does.
to confirm or deny it publicly, I'd have to have
Yeah,
more
same.
information, and yeah, yeah.
Same, definitely same. And one thing that's
But I'm
been
glad you
said
brought
is
that up.
that surfactant says black people are industrious and can do a lot in a little bit of time. And
True.
which is exactly, which is true. And Melissa says, based off the number of slave ships that came to America, it doesn't add up actually. So that is that I
Yeah,
want to say that's true as well. But again, um I've not looked into that specifically as well. So
hmm,
what I've not looked into specifically is this idea that just the amount, the sheer amount of black presence that there was on the Americas, to the extent of like as against the amount that was supposedly brought on the slave ships, so I believe both are true. It's the
hmm,
extent to which both are true that I don't know. What's the extent?
absolutely.
How much, how heavy was that black presence that was already on the
Yeah,
Americas, and um how big was the presence that was brought in,
absolutely.
during the slave trade. So that's, and people
I think
do
that's a fair way
multiply as
to.
well. Sorry, go on.
I think that's a fair way to look at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I want to show this. Okay, let's keep going. So we're coming to the end of these photos now. Who are these two gentlemen? They look like they're well to do. Again, this goes back to that whole confidence, that industriousness. They look like they're well-to-do black people in an era where black people aren't supposed to be well-to-do. Something like coming out of Black Wall Street almost.
Yeah. So the picture that we were looking at earlier of the gentleman you said kind of reminds you of like an OG gangster.
Yeah.
These are two of his younger brothers. One of them, I believe, the gentleman on the right was the one that might have been killed by the Chicago mob.
Right.
Yeah, but these gentlemen, like they were making a living for themselves, right? So whatever way they were doing it, I don't know about the other brother, right? Could have been something completely legit. But yeah, exactly. I have so many of these photos like this where it's like, this doesn't represent the narrative that I've been taught, you know? So, yeah, just, you know,
Yeah, we need to
even,
just go on.
yeah,
Sorry, go on.
even there's another picture here I think we'll see later where it's like I think it's with the pistols, you know, in a time where blacks weren't supposed to have guns, you know? So it's just, you know, there's a lot of things that are counter to the narrative for sure.
Thank you, Sir Facton. $5 super chat. He says the history book I'm reading now says that Native Americans were enslaved and sent to the West Indies, but West Indians don't have Native American DNA. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They would, yeah. Even like I know, like the Nancy Atoke, I believe is how you pronounce it. Indians were taken to Antigua. There's plenty of documented proof that I don't know, a countless amount of Indigenous Americans were taken to the West Indies, but you know, you don't see that talked about in today, you know, amongst their populations today, right? But they were definitely taken there. So what happened? You know, where'd they go? Yeah, yeah.
That in itself, I'm just digesting that. That in itself, Craig, you're back. You're back in the chat. We can see what you're saying, so you're not locked at all. But that in itself is interesting what you just said. But because it's like that, if nothing demonstrates how easy it is to write us out of history, it's that like if nothing demonstrates, how am I saying this? That demonstrates it perfectly. The fact that you can have people. What did he say again? History book that he's reading now says Native Americans were enslaved and sent to the West Indies, but West Indians don't have Native American DNA. So I don't get what sense are you saying that? Are you saying that they
I think
expect us?
yeah, I think he's saying it sarcastically, right? It's like they're not
Right.
Yeah.
But how does that
Even
make sense? That's stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I sent you, I think, 2 photos late on, but of my DNA test, right, through Ancestry.
Let's talk about it now. I don't have it up, but let's talk about
That's
it
cool.
now. Sorry.
So the first one, it says I'm 1% Native American, right, and like 8% Iberian. On the second one, they've basically added that Iberian to English, and the Native American disappears, right? Now I do know from the little bit I know about genetics that 1% is actually a lot more significant than one would think. I think it actually translates to a possible like 4th great grandparent being full-blooded, whatever that percentage is. Now, the interesting thing about Native American DNA, now Ancestry will tell you this on their website, and I also jumped in King's Live to confirm it. Many of these populations aren't going to be referenced because they were killed off or mixed into populations, right? So they don't have a reference pool for every type of Indigenous American, only the recognized tribes. And usually the recognized tribes mean that they had to compromise, you know what I mean? So it's saying 1% Native American doesn't mean you're only 1% Native American. It just means that we recognize 1%, you know? And then it's interesting as well that it disappears on the update, you know? So, but yeah.
Wow.
Ethnicity estimates shouldn't be, they're not an exact science, you know? Genetics is a very real thing, but ethnicity estimates are a guessing game at best. So, yeah.
Hey. I'm looking half distracted at this image. I just wish these. I think skinny pants and skinny jeans, skinny trousers are on their way out anyway. Because I really need, as someone who's a '90s baby, I really need these free flowing, classy ass like trousers to come back. This like
Agreed.
free flowing, smooth. Look at the crease running through that. I don't know whose idea it was to start getting us wearing these tight things that we're wearing about now. Look at these gentlemen, absolute
I know.
stunning
That's the
class.
perfect fit, bro. Because we went a
Yeah.
little too radical with the Steve Harveys, you know,
Mm,
a little too with the zoot suits. We went a little too baggy, and then now it's
yeah.
a little too tight. This is a
Yeah.
perfect medium. This is
Perfect.
class, you know. Yeah,
Absolutely perfect, man. I'm
yeah.
looking at RJ McKenzie says bell bottoms are back, baby. I don't know about bell bottoms. I don't want
Yeah.
bell bottoms.
Well, so RJ, I know he's younger than us. So I have seen amongst these younger, I don't know about bottoms either. The Y2K thing is coming back. So they're wearing like the super baggy, like almost
Yeah, yeah.
parachute Jinko pants. You know? Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, I
Fashion
think
is cyclical. Yeah,
yeah, it is cyclical, but I think there's something in the air. These like the Illuminati who are directing our fashion senses and whatnot. They're just messing around with us. That's fashion. I feel like fashion itself is a psyop now. Why can't we just go
yeah,
back to normal, like what we're looking at on the screen right now? Just normal, straight cut, nice fitting. Why do we have to swing from skinny? I can remember
two
when I first
extremes.
put my first skinny jeans on. I felt like a DAMN fool, absolute
Yeah,
fool, and I regret ever giving into the thing. I regret ever
yeah,
giving into the trend. But now you're telling me they want to go away from that. But instead of going back to what fits and what's comfortable, what looks slick, we're going to go back to bell bottoms, looking like court jesters out here. Oh my
yeah.
goodness, right? And again,
If I
this
can
this
count all the change in your pocket, they're too tight. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If I could
Thank
see the
you.
if I could see the head on the quarter in your pocket, the
Yeah.
eye. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
crazy.
Right, right. Okay, so closing out now, coming to the end. And again, this is your grandfather. I'm guessing this is you on the bottom right hand side.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is your dad.
Uncle.
Uncle.
My
Right, cool,
my
cool.
mama's sister. I'm sorry, my mama's brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Who did these? These
Yeah.
are really good.
I know, and I don't know because this is well before my time. But shout out to them because usually when people try to when they draw a likeness, it's not likeness. You know, this is
Mm.
very. That looks just like me when I was a little kid. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, these are all the people's gentlemen, so that's why it's just us men in that picture. In that picture,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then we got
Yeah,
I
him on the
think your
bottom, my
mom.
uncle,
Yeah, your
mom
sister
on
and
the
your
left, and her little sister on the right. Yeah.
oh man. Gives me 80s vibe. That gives me 80s vibes.
Oh man, the hair was herring back then too. Like this is a they must have had like a normal day here because I know it got a lot crazier than that. Yeah. So
Well, if there's one era that I would want to go back to, I always say it's the 80s.
oh
I wish I'd have been like an adult through the 80s. The 80s is like I was born just as the Berlin Wall was coming down, and so but I wish I really lived out through the 80s. That era is
I
like,
agree. I agree. My first artist I like listened to and loved was Seal. I mean, you're in the UK, so you know all about Seal.
yeah, I know about Seal. Yeah, Seal is
I feel
amazing.
like he's done a disservice when people only acknowledge "Kiss by a Rose" because I actually think that's like one of his worst songs.
Oh
His
yeah, yeah,
discography
yeah,
is crazy.
yeah.
Anyways, I would love to have been in that time period. You know, oh man, coming into the
There's
'90s
some,
as well, early
there,
'90s.
there's
You get
something
all that
called
good
Top
hip
of the
hop.
Pops here. There was something called Top of the Pops. It was that it stopped airing now, but I think it stopped in like the early noughties. But I
Mm,
record they start during lockdown. They started to air old like reruns of it, and it was just basically a music show where you had the top of the charts played from 40 to number one in the UK. But
mm.
I record everything that's from the 80s and 90s. I've got it on there. It annoys the missus because she doesn't like she likes to free up the
Yeah,
memory
the
to,
space.
to, to record other things. But I love it. I love it too much, and I'm not gonna
Dang.
delete them because it's just really cool. Right. So right, and this we got a colorized 40s picture here, right? What am I saying? Let's go.
Yeah, so this is what it might actually be no, yeah, it's 40s. This is my on the far right there. Man, I have so many stories about her. So this is my great aunt right now, and she was the wild child. Okay, she was bad news, right? But But when I was born, she took care of me like a little, like I was her son. So I have my earliest memories actually with her. But the whole family, she was a wild one, yeah, for sure. But I just always thought she looked so cool. Like every time I find a photo of her, she just looks like just a cool person, you know. But yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that's Ray now. She's a dentist as well. This is like some kind of elementary or middle school
Is
photo. So this,
is she the one on the? You said the one on the right.
yeah, far right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Who's the guy? Who's the guy in the at the back on the left hand side?
I don't know, but he actually looks like he could be a family member, but he's not.
It looks like you.
Yeah, I know.
Like
Maybe
you.
someone has some explaining to do, huh?
Oh, let's not
But
go there.
to be fair, but to be fair, a lot of these families lived in the same area for so long. A lot of them probably resembled each other phenotypically, right? Because they were in such a small area for such a long time.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
He
Right.
does look like a lot like my father as well, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it does. We're gonna have to. We are gonna have to do a part 2. When you like dig up more when you look deeper into your ancestry, I'm gonna have to have you back. We need to. We need a second.
I would love that, yeah, because I was telling my grandmother about this, and it was like, there's so much information that I just scratched the surface with this stuff, but I had to leave, so yeah, give me another opportunity to go up there, and then we could do another one of these for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
With more information.
Guys, hit the like button. Hit the like button. So Panther Jones says, UK brother, respectfully, you look very old. You got to get rid of that beard, brother. I will say, in fairness, that's what everyone around me says. The beard makes me look older, but I like that for now because when I take the beard off, I typically take the beard off in the summer months, spring and summer months. But when I take the beard off, I'm hoping I'm not gassing myself up too much here. But I look too young. So the beard is to make me look older. I've got a bit of a baby face underneath this especially when I shave the whole thing off. So it's a bit of it's something that I used to mask that dweeby baby look. So but I like it for now. So I'm happy that you're saying it makes me look extremely old. Actually, that's job done for me. But okay, cool. Thank you for that.
That's hilarious. I mean, the internet's brutal, huh? But to be fair, hey Panther, before we started this live, I saw him with his glasses off. He looks very young. I feel like the glasses are hiding his youth for real. I'm not just gassing him up or anything. Yeah, this isn't damage control for real.
Thank you. That's all right. Anyway, I don't mind.
That's hilarious.
Guys, it's been absolutely fun. Thank you so much again. Thank you to all my members, all the True Black members, and everyone who's dropped us a super chat, and everyone who's been here, who's been polite and contributed politely and whatnot, and even to the trolls for the short time you were here with us. We enjoyed your trolling a little bit. Yeah. So anyway, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you so much, London, for joining us. And if you just hang on and we'll just have a little chat on the other side of this. Right. Peace out, everyone. From Kush to Compton. We'll be refreshing our range on our TrueBlack.my Shopify. So check that out, guys. Very soon in the next few weeks. So if you want to support us that way by getting a shirt, I'm wearing my favorite one right now, my Sankara tee. You can see that properly, but yeah. So if you want to help us out, you can do it that way as well. I'll go on TrueBlack.my Shopify. So anyway, all right. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Tomorrow we'll have the King on, hopefully, and that should be fun. All right. See you. Bye.
Deuces.
Oh, London.